We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rivas. Councilmember Green.
Present.
Councilmember Beltran.
Present.
Vice Mayor McCurdy.
Present.
Mayor Meister.
Present. Oral communication. This is an opportunity to address the city council on any matter scheduled for closed session. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. If you'd like to come forward, now's the time. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We have one closed session item tonight. It's Government Code Section 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case in which facts are not yet known to potential plaintiff.
Okay, with that, we'll go into closed session and reconvene at 6 o'clock. Okay, we'll reconvene to open session and report on any reportable actions taken in closed session.
There is no reportable action tonight.
Okay. I'll ask you all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by myself, and then please remain standing for anyone that wants to give an invocation. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Please be seated. All right, this is a time for council comments. Councilman Green, do you have any comments?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
Councilman Rivas? Vice Mayor McCurvey?
I just wanted to say it's been a heavy day. Had the pleasure of attending the funeral of Randy Hoppert, and it was great to see what looked about 3,000 officers from around our valley getting together and paying respects. It was very moving. It was deeply moving, and it's a horrific thing that happened in our community, and it's the good that comes out of this from people that stand up as first responders and are courageous, protecting all of us, comes out, and the family that is our law enforcement and our fire services comes together strong, and there's a lot of community that's come together also, and I like to see that outpouring of love, the strength from the family to stand up and talk about this and help us in the healing and the grief process is, it's really important. And I'm just thankful to have been part of that, and it really moved me and my wife and our family. And the things that are happening in our community are very uplifting, and they're bringing people together and reconciling and lifting each other up and encouraging each other through this trying time for this family. Let's continue to keep them in our prayers. This is a very difficult time for them, I'm sure, and will be for the rest of their lives. And so let's pray for all of our first responders, because they do this every day, and we don't need to take that for granted ever. And let's just continue to encourage our law enforcement, our first responders, and all those that provide that safety and that thin blue line and that thin red line. I just wanted to say that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And for myself, I attended Breakfast Lines today. We talked about the economy, reducing regulation in the city of Porterville, paving roads, addressing the law and order in our city, and some of the projects that are going on in the community, like the breaking the ground for the 3-story battleship-themed playground, talking about some of the trails, the 3 different trails that are going on in the community center. It was a great time with some guys that have had a lot of influence in our community for a long time, so it was a real honor to be with them, or pleasure. And then today I also attended the funeral ceremony for Randy Hoppert. I got to tell you, it was one of the most honorable ceremonies I've ever been at. The Sheriff's Department did an outstanding job honoring and recognizing Randy for the man he is and the sacrifice he made for our community. And that sacrifice his family made as well. You know, we got to hear a lot about Randy today. I never knew Randy, but after today, I think some of us that were there probably felt like we knew him just a little bit. And he's big on hunting and big game hunter. Looks like he traveled the nation hunting, fishing. One of his biggest catches was his wife. The job she did honoring that man today, I've never seen anything like it. And so to the family, prayers go out to him, to his friends, his brothers and sisters that serve our community. My prayers are with them as well. And unfortunately, evil exists, and really the message from his wife today was, keep fighting, keep doing your job, keep going forward. She did not shy away from it, and I mean, it was inspiring, to say the least. Beautiful family. She's pregnant with this child right now. It's just a heartbreaking thing to see. Very hard day, and I can't imagine for them. So, with that, like I said, it was a great honor to be there and represent the city of Porterville. Okay, moving on to oral communication. This is the opportunity to address the council on any matters of interest, whether on the agenda or not. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. Please come forward at this time if you have comments.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Taha Saleh, address on file. I just wanted to take the moment to thank the city of Porterville and our city manager for a successful event last Tuesday. It was so much value. I learned so much, and I really appreciate the resources you guys put into that. And I look forward, and I'll tell the public, please, when they have another one, please come through. Thank you, Council, Mayor and Vice Mayor, for attending that funeral and your kind words. It really means a lot that you guys were there for us. It is hard. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it feels like to lose somebody. I just hope that there's a better place, and that people that leave us early are the real winners. You know, that they're in a better place than we are. That's what makes me get through every day. So when there's tragedy like that, when people leave before they should leave. So thank you again for the kind words, and for Vice Mayor for your kind words of unity. That really means a lot. And I really appreciate the thing you guys do and what you guys put up with. And it does mean a lot when I hear those kind of words coming from the dais. It does set the tone. So I look forward to a very productive meeting. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Saleh. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else. Does council have any comments? Councilman Beltran, you didn't get an opportunity there. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I kind of missed the beginning of that, but you guys summed it up. It was a wonderful service. I think the highlight I saw the most was it was a celebration of his life.
Yes.
That I think spoke to the character of who he was, is that, of course, there's going to be sorrow and mourning, but he was such a great person that it was more of a celebration of just how awesome of an individual he was, not just as a father and a husband, but the service to the country and to his community. So I saw it as a celebration. That was a wonderful part of that whole event. I don't know if it was mentioned last Friday, there was a badge pinning ceremony for 4 new firefighters for the city of Porterville, so I was able to attend that. And it was wonderful, again, to see. It was 4 gentlemen who are married with, I believe they all had small children, and just to see them, have their career start here in the city of Porterville, and just that future growth of what it means to be a first responder in our community, and that we make sure we do the best we can up here as leaders, as management, to make sure they have all the tools that they need to just do their job to keep the community safe, but also to make sure they're safe.
Thank you, Councilman Beltran. Councilman Green, you have any comments?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Rivas.
Yeah, I echo all the sentiments that you guys have said. The purpose I could not attend Mr. Hopper's ceremony was I had to work. And sometimes when you work part-time, they don't let you go out and attend. But I've been to many of those during my career, and it's hard. It's real hard. You think about, the people that they leave behind, and, all he was trying to do was protect the citizens of Porterville. Yeah. And unfortunately, his life was taken too soon, too quick, and unexpectedly. And, Mr. Hopper gave it all. And for that, we need to always be reminded that every officer, firefighter that puts on a uniform as a first responder, he might or she might not come back. So with that, I lost many friends during my career, and it's you lose an angel is what you lose. And then you think to yourself, that could have been me. But with that, I'm glad the mayor, the vice mayor, Mr. Beltran had some kind words to say, because every time you put on that uniform, you just never know. So with that, that's the purpose why I could not attend, because I had to go to work. So I just wanted to, or else I would have been there without not even a question. But with that, I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor McCurvey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say some more about the badge pinning. It was really awesome. I'm not going to go down that pole. They offered to. I said, well, I'm going to hurt myself. But it was great to see the families, and you're right. They're young families, and they're very gung-ho about what they're doing. It was Emmanuel Martinez, Mike Gutierrez, and Seth and Chris. And Seth got the lowest time in the history of Porterville in this crop, which was really exciting because, now he's got bragging rights, and he's the new guy on the block, and so everybody's gunning for him. And it's really a great camaraderie there, and there was a lot of words of iron. It was great display of leadership with all those young leaders and commitment. And they did a video. In each class, when they graduate those classes, they did a video there at the new Draeger thing that we put in, and it's tailored to their class, and they do it and they present it to everybody over at the fire station, and it was just phenomenally done. And then it gives that they are involved in creating the video. It shows them and what they're doing, that hard work, and it really just starts creating that bond that we need in our fire teams. And it's a great exposition of leadership too, with our leaders that are bringing them along and teaching them and training them. And they talk about things like the minimum standard is just above failure. They talk about continuous improvement. They talk about character counts. They talk about integrity and hard work and dropping the ego. And it's a really, really great to be with a bunch of great leaders in our own fire services and look at that in action. And that leadership secures the blessings of liberty. And it's just a great event. So I wanted to talk about that too. I did go to the rodeo. I saw you over there, Alexis. That was awesome. It was in the rain too. It was really cool. But I love the faith and the family and the freedom at the rodeo. That little girl that was going around, the 7-year-old that was doing the tricks, just mind blowing. At 7 years old to be able to do that. But our sheriff was there, and he's been going around and talking about first responders and talking to our community about this thing that we're all talking about here today. And he's just been showing some great leadership throughout the community, all throughout the county, and just coming and talking to people and making sure that we're all getting through this process together and looking at the good things that are going to come out of it while we're also lifting up the family. And that scripture, it was very fitting with Randy. And there was 2 scriptures there, one from Isaiah where it says, "Here am I, send me," and also the great sacrifice of a man sacrificing his life for his friend, the greatest love. And those things hold true for all of us. It's not just first responders, so it resonates out. And I think that I'd just like to emphasize that he showed us what that meant in his service, and his family also now saying he would want us to continue on and work hard. So I just wanted to say those things too. Thank you, Mayor.
John 15:13. You also had the flag walk. I missed
Yeah.
the badge pinning ceremony, and I missed the flag walk. I had an ill child, but you got to talk about the flag walk.
Well, yeah, there's a
as well.
video, that's a video coming out, if it's not out already, that shows a summary of the flag walk. It was really good. The cadets from the military academy were awesome demonstrating the flag folding. And we saw that real time today, for real. And those folds all have a really special meaning, and teaching that in our flag walks is a really important piece. We had some things to give away. We actually taught some folks that came to learn about the flags, and we're hoping to do some more of that. Doing it on Saturday is difficult, especially with all the busy things that people have in their lives, so it wasn't as well attended as we'd hoped, but we're hoping to do it again in Constitution Week, and so we'll spread that video around and share it with folks, and maybe we can get some of our kids and our youth more involved, and maybe do it on a school day.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, with that, we'll move on to scheduled matter. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The schedule matters for the draft fiscal year 26-27 capital improvement program. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I have a presentation, and I'll actually give the presentation from podium if you'd like, if that's okay, Mayor.
Well, it sounds like what you would like. Let's go, sir. I love it. Command presence is key. Stan, what are you looking at?
Huh?
I said, what are you looking at there?
I'm looking at you.
I ain't that tall.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the community. For those that may not know, my name is Rich Tree. I serve as the city manager. Tonight, I'm presenting the city's capital improvement program, which outlines our long-term investment for strategy over the next 10 years. This presentation is about how we plan, how we invest, and most importantly, how we deliver for the Porterville community. The city's budget is not a one-time event. It's a continuous cycle. Each year, the council adopts a budget in June. We begin implementing in July. In February, we conduct a mid-year review, and then we start preparing for the next cycle with community input in April. And in May, on May 12th specifically, we'll present our preliminary budget at a special city council meeting. This process ensures that we are consistently evaluating our performance, adjusting where needed, and planning for the future. As part of the process, we're actively engaged with the community. On April 22nd, we invited residents to participate in our first ever budget workshop where they learned about city finances, they were able to ask questions, and they provided input on priorities. This is a critical part of ensuring that our investments reflect the needs of the community we serve. So at a high level, this is how our money works. Essentially, revenue is collected through taxes and fees. Those funds are allocated through the city's budget and then invested back into the community services. Our goal is simple: turn revenue into results that keep Porterville safe, functional, and thriving. And we provided these slides, and this is talking about the general fund, the difference between unrestricted revenues and restricted revenues. And the unrestricted revenues, both of these revenue sources are not the same. Unrestricted revenues like property tax and sales tax provide the city flexibility to fund essential services. These funds are critical because they allow us to maintain core operations like police, fire, parks, community service, and more. To make this more relatable, this slide shows how $1 in the general fund is spent. The largest portion from this graph goes to police services, 35 cents of the dollar, followed by other city services such as administration, planning and engineering, human resources, and then we move into fire, parks and leisure, and finance. This gives us a clear picture of how we prioritize essential services that residents rely on every day. In addition to the general fund, voter-approved sales tax, our Measure H and Measure I, generate approximately $16.5 million. And for those that attended the community meeting, you may look at like, hey, Measure H looks different. I'm learning as well, too. So back in 2016, when the city built Fire Station 73, or also referred to as our public safety building, there was a determination made to use 4.4% of Measure H, which was originally allocated for literacy and library program to help with that, the building of that facility and its operation. And so it's been an updated slide that helps understand where Measure H is being funded. Primarily police and fire make up 84%, and the rest, and if you include public safety, it's 85% roughly. Measure I, again, it's a general sales tax approved by the voters in 2018. This graph shows 82% is being used towards public safety. That's based off of our last budget, primarily operations. There is some funds that are available for facility improvements or other projects that the council determines a priority. For example, it's been a priority for the council for the last couple of years to increase our self-performed street maintenance, and that's funded through Measure I. All right. We talked about this in the community budget meeting as well, but I do want to highlight, before we transition into the capital improvement program, that balancing the budget is becoming increasingly challenged. We're facing rising costs such as employee compensation and inflation, while at the same time dealing with flat revenues and growing needs. Our responsibility is to manage these pressures carefully while continuing to deliver high-quality services to the community. All right, so now we're getting into the Community Improvement Program, commonly referred to as a CIP. Essentially, it's our long-term planning tool. It allows us to identify, prioritize, and fund major infrastructure projects over a 10-year period. Tonight, we're really focusing on this next fiscal year, but included in your budget, the staff report is the next 10 years. You can look at projects out 5, 10 plus years, but I think for the sake of discussion, later on this evening, we'll really talk about what's being planned for the next year. But the CIP ensures that we're making strategic, data-driven decisions that align with community needs and available resources. So within the capital improvement program, it's 25 pages. I'm trying to make it simple for not only the community to understand how this program is developed, but also help the council as well understand. So it's kind of broken up into 7 different categories, ranging from bridges and streets, signals. We have our water, sewer, storm drain, and wastewater infrastructure. We have parks and public spaces, police and fire, transportation, which includes airport and transit, and then miscellaneous. A lot of those miscellaneous would be things that don't fall in one of those categories, but also projects that the council has mentioned either in a meeting with staff or publicly said that they would like to see this project in the next year. We would stick that project in the miscellaneous category. All right. So guiding principles. All of our investments are guided by key principles. We focus on fiscal responsibility, data-driven decision-making, maintaining our existing infrastructure, supporting economic growth, and enhancing the quality of life. These principles ensure that every dollar is invested strategically and responsibly. Projects are not selected randomly. They are identified through a combination of department input, and I appreciate all of the department heads and staff being here tonight and being available to the community and the council to answer any questions that come up later. And they're really, Donnie and I rely on our department heads to give input. They're the experts in their fields. But we also use master plans, such as our water master plan or our general plan, for example, to help us plan out future projects. Then there's regulatory requirements, usually from the state, sometimes from the federal government. We have infrastructure assessments. One that most recently has been talked about is our pavement condition index. where a couple years ago, we hired a firm to go out and rate all of our streets so we can understand where to focus our work in the worst areas of town. But we also help identify projects based on community input and feedback. And this ensures that our investments are aligned with real needs and long-term priorities. So if you look at the last 10 years, and this is really astonishing, the city has invested approximately $1.2 billion in planned projects. Now, we haven't completed all of them, and sometimes some projects carry over multiple years. But if you added up every CIP in the last 10 years, it's $1.10 billion. This reflects a sustained commitment to building and maintaining a strong and resilient community. Now, if you look over the last 10 years, this helps you understand where the focus has been. It's really been distributed across all the different categories. You can see that the largest investments have been in streets, water infrastructure, and parks. And those are categories that directly impact residents' daily lives. Now, what does this mean to Porterville? I really think it comes down to this, that the investment delivers real results for Porterville. It means safer streets, more reliable infrastructure, enhanced quality of life, and continued investment in public safety. These are not just projects, they're improvements that residents use, that they see, and they rely on every day. Now the next, I will warn you, and I will try not to go too deep, but we really wanted to break these categories down to help the community and the council understand what has happened in the last 10 years. Some of them we know about, right? Like Villa, when we're talking about bridges and streets. That was a recently completed road reconstruction. But if you look back 10 years, this really helps us understand the investment in bridges and streets. Now, Bridge and Street represents one of the city's largest and most important investments in the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, we've made significant investment to improve road conditions, enhance safety, and support mobility throughout Porterville. Now, I can't list all the projects. I don't want to list all the projects in the last 10 years, but I mentioned one that comes to mind most recently is the Villa reconstruction. What you can see is that we focused on both major capital improvements and ongoing maintenance to protect our infrastructure. So that small red line is the growth in self-performed maintenance over the last 10 years. And I would say really in the last 5 years, there's been a significant increase and directed by the council to do more lane miles. And if you look at it in the last 10 years, that's today and next year, we're doing 6 times more self-performed street maintenance than we did 10 years ago. That's an incredible investment. I wish I could say if we, doubled that, we would repair all the roads in 1 year, but we're going to need a lot more help to do that. We have a lot of roads to repair. That's a good slide to reflect on in regards to, because we hear a lot, and we all understand that we have a lot of work to do into improving our roads, and we are investing a considerable amount. I want to make sure that everyone understands that. Now, traffic signals represent really a targeted investment focused on safety and mobility at key locations throughout the city. Over the last 10 years, we made improvements such as new traffic signals, and we're going to be talking about some pedestrian safety projects. And you might see them along Butterfield corridor right now, the hawk crossings and the rapid flashing beacons that you've seen being installed throughout the community, and we're expanding on that. And those are really focused on high pedestrian activity areas. While these projects are smaller in scale compared to major roadway projects, they have a direct and immediate impact on safety. The focus has been on improving visibility, managing traffic flow, and enhancing safety for both drivers and pedestrians. Water infrastructure is one of the most critical investments we make as a city. Over the past 10 years, we've invested significantly in our water system to ensure reliability, meet regulatory requirements, and support future growth. That is really going to be important. How much we invest in our water will determine how much the city can grow. This includes improvements to wells, water storage, treatment systems, and programs related to groundwater sustainability. While many of these projects happen behind the scenes, they are essential to maintaining a safe and dependable water supply for our community. These investments, these are investments people may not always see, but they are absolutely essential to the health and safety of our community. Sewer infrastructure is another essential investment area focused on system reliability, capacity, and long-term performance. Over the past 10 years, we've made consistent investments in lift stations, system upgrades, and replacement programs to ensure the system continues to operate efficiently. You'll notice a significant increase in investment during the 21, 22, and 22, 23 years. This increase is primarily the result of annexations, which required the city to expand and upgrade infrastructure to serve new areas. As the city grows, our infrastructure has to grow with it, and this reflects that transition. Moving on to storm drain. Drain infrastructure focuses on protecting our community from flooding and managing stormwater effectively. Over the last 10 years, we made investments in drainage systems, capacity improvements, and flood management projects to better handle storm events. These improvements are designed to reduce flooding risks, protect property, and ensure that the water is safely conveyed through the system, during heavy rain. Wastewater infrastructure focuses on treatment and safe management of wastewater before it's returned to the environment. Over the past 10 years, we've made important investments in our wastewater treatment facility, including upgrades, repairs, odor control. We may want to, sometimes I think we should invest more in odor control, but maybe it's just the way the wind blows. And improvements to overall system performance. These projects ensure that we are meeting strict environmental regulations and maintaining reliable operations at our treatment facility. While this infrastructure is largely out of sight, it's essential to protecting public health and the environment. Community development focuses on planning efforts that guide the city's long-term growth and development. Over the past 10 years, you'll notice shifts in investment from year to year. These changes are driven by specific plans and studies such as the general plan or the housing element or updates to our development ordinance and other strategic planning efforts listed here. These are not ongoing construction projects. They are targeted investments that occur at key points in time when planning documents need to be updated or developed. I'll get a drink real quick. Whoa, I might have turned that off, Vern. There we go. All right, we're almost there, getting through kind of reflection on the past 10 years, but let's talk about parks and public spaces, because there's been a significant investment in this category in the last 6 or so years. And this really is an investment in quality of life. We've made focused investments in expanding our trail network and improving city facilities. So it's not just parks, This category includes city facilities, as well as the various trails that the city has. This reflects a deliberate effort to create more opportunities for recreation, connectivity, and community gathering. Police investments are focused on supporting public safety operations, ensuring our department has the facilities and tools it needs to serve the community effectively. Over the past 10 years, we made significant investments in areas such as the new animal shelter, improvements to the police department, upgrades to the training facility, and enhancements to our dispatch system. These projects are designed to improve service delivery, support our officers, and ensure that we are equipped to respond to the needs of the community. Fire investments are focused on ensuring our emergency response capabilities remain strong, reliable, and ready to serve the community. Over the past 10 years, we've increased our investment in improvements to Fire Station 71, 72, and 73, along with upgrades to our training facility and the replacement of critical equipment. These investments are essential to maintaining modern, functional facilities and ensuring that our firefighters have the tools and training they need to respond effectively. Now to our airport, so we're moving into transportation. For those that may not know, our airport is categorized as a general aviation airport. And our investments are focused on maintaining safe, reliable operations and supporting local economic activity. Over the past 10 years, we made improvements to runway 1230, as well as taxiways and taxi lanes to ensure safe aircraft movement throughout the facility. We've also invested in upgrades to the airport cafe, access control systems, such as our gates and fences, and we've also invested in improving our fuel island. Beyond local use, these improvements also support critical operations for agencies such as the U.S. Forestry, CAL FIRE, and military operations. These partnerships are essential in supporting wildfire response efforts in the Sierra Nevada region and contributing to broader national defense and emergency response capabilities. Switching over to transit, which has had a significant investment over the last 10 years. And what's important to know about transit is it's never used a dollar of the general fund. It's always been funded through the Federal Transit Administration and local transportation funds. But the investments that you see here are focused on improving the overall customer experience and ensuring reliable service for our community. Over the past 10 years, we've made investments in passenger amenities, such as bus stop signs and shelters, as well as improvements to the transit center. We've also invested in new transit buses and shuttle vans, along with upgrades to fare collection equipment and system security. One last drink real quick. I think we're nearing the end of the presentation as well. But let's talk about the miscellaneous category. It includes a range of investments that support overall city operations and facility improvements. Over the past 10 years, this has included projects such as improvements to City Hall, technology upgrades, refuse-related improvements, and projects funded through programs like the American Rescue Plan. While these projects may not fall into a single category, they're important to maintaining city facilities, improving internal operations, and supporting service delivery across the departments. So this is important to understand this last fiscal year. This is our current year. And again, I want to thank staff for the amazing work that they have done throughout the year. We've made significant progress We started or completed $83.4 million in projects, which I like baseball analogy. We're batting a little bit over 500 when it comes to the total planned projects that we had presented, that the council approved a year ago. These include major milestones such as the Main Street reconstruction, 30 miles of self-performed street maintenance, design of pedestrian safety projects such as the Hawks and rapid flash beacons that will come later. We started the Del Oro and Hope water consolidations, or continued on with that. If there was a navigation center expansion, we started construction on the Overland Park and Recreation Center. There was investments in the Butterfield Corridor, the Battleship Playground, and the Washington Monument. There was also upgrades to our Emergency Operations Center. The Fire Station 72 remodel started. We ordered 9 brand-new transit buses. Happy to report that 6 of them have arrived as of today. And then we also invested over $100,000 in deploying a new permitting system, which will help with our development. It's an incredible amount of work. I appreciate, again, thanks to all the staff for their hard work in making this happen. So now I'd like to shift from what we've done to what comes next for Porterville. For the upcoming fiscal year, we have approximately $106 million in planned investments. These projects are based on identified needs, available funding, and council direction. These represent our continued commitment to investing in infrastructure and improving quality of life. Now, there's a lot of projects listed here. I tried to summarize them in an attachment that was provided in the staff report, but I want to highlight a couple of these projects. Most notably, we're going to start construction on the Main Street parking lot this upcoming fiscal year. We're going to continue 30 lane miles of self-performed street maintenance. There's no reduction in that, so I'm really proud that we're continuing that, and I hope that we continue that as long as possible. We went from design of the pedestrian safety improvement projects such as Hawk and the rapid flashing beacons. This next year, we're going to be going into construction, and that is incredible for those that are walking, improve that safety, and there's a whole list in our CIP to review of where those pedestrian safety projects are going to be performed at. We're going to continue on with the Del Oro and Hope water consolidation. That's going to take us some time. But we're going to start construction on well 34 and well 37 that the council has already approved. And we're going to finish the Overland Park and Recreation Center. And I'm going to be excited to be a part of that celebration later in the calendar year when that happens. But also, more importantly, this next fiscal year, I hope, and we're going to give it our best shot, is to finish the design of the new library. That's important to get that done this next year. And thank you for the council's investment in the library and making that design, restarting that design, and hopefully we can bring it home across the finish line this next fiscal year. Also exciting is this next fiscal year, we're going to start the design of the Sportsplex, which will be right adjacent to the library. We're not going to stop improving at the Veterans Park. We'll have the new playground, we'll have the new monument, but this next year we're going to be performing the Veterans Trail Park Phase 2, which will bring concrete pathway, lighting, all the way around Veterans Park. It's going to be amazing. It was approved early this year, but we're going to start and complete this project, which is the public safety radio upgrades. We're going to finish the remodel of 72, and then we're going to shift right into the remodel of Station 71 and the new EOC and the memorial site. So it's exciting to see those projects really start coming to life. In regards to transportation, we've essentially completed the design of the new maintenance facility, and this next fiscal year will be going into construction. And then last but not least, I'll highlight the City Hall roof repairs that we've talked about for a while, but we've dedicated, or at least proposing to dedicate some funds to start on the repair of the roof, so that we don't have to hold up an umbrella over our desk when it's raining. And then we're also going to invest in ADA improvements here at City Hall. Pretty exciting list of projects, and I know we'll be discussing more. But to help with that discussion, we also provided in the staff report, and I'll say this, it's really important that it's a draft of our fund balances, but this helps us understand what our financial capacity is. Some funds are strong and available, such as our sewer operating fund and solid waste and water replacement. Others are limited, such as our special gas tax, which, again, this is draft, and we'll refine this and finalize it as we get closer to when the budget's adopted, but currently projected to be in a deficit. Our airport replacement fund, we have a lot of projects planned for the airport, but we need some assistance from the federal and state agencies to help us with some of our bigger projects, but there's not much there in regards to the replacement fund. And then we have the funding constraints. I'll highlight Measure R alternative. And you may ask, well, how in the world are we have a deficit of 28 million? And that is where projects we're working on right now, but we're either preparing the reimbursement submittals to TCAG or whatever agency that's financially assisting us with that project. Either we're waiting to be paid back, or we're working on the reimbursement paperwork. Primarily, some of the big projects that we're waiting for reimbursement is Steel Villa reconstruction, and then the Butterfield corridor. Not all funds can be used the same way, which is why strategic planning is critical when identifying council priority projects. I listed here the general fund and also Measure H and Measure I in the attachment show a zero balance, and there really isn't, based on the operational needs, there's no funds, at least on the sales tax measures, to be available for capital projects unless we move some projects around. So we can have that conversation. And the general fund also is pretty limited. And I mentioned earlier the challenges of balancing the budget. But before we end tonight, I wanted to talk about our focusing on high-value investments. This slide is intended to help frame the next part of our discussion. And not all projects deliver the same type of value. Some projects are essential to maintaining infrastructure and provide services, but others have the potential to generate long-term economic benefits for the city. And so one of those examples is the SO2 Master Plan, which represents a future growth area designed to support housing, commercial development, and job creation. This is not a single project, but a framework that can drive long-term economic opportunity. As we move into council discussions, this is an opportunity to consider not only what projects we fund, but which projects provide the greatest return in terms of economic development and community impact. So the last slide, which is the most important part of this process. And Mayor, if you you have the ability to, for those that are in attendance tonight, if anyone wants to provide public comment, you can do that if you'd like, or they can share their thoughts with staff. But following that public input, it'll be a city council discussion. We can discuss many of the projects that I summarized for this upcoming fiscal year. And then ultimately, the identification of council priority projects. This is where your input matters. Together, we'll define the priorities that shape Porterville's future. I look forward to working with the council on discussing the 26-27 capital improvement program. Thank you, council. And I will now shift over here to help with the ongoing discussion.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Tree. I think that was really well done because people online could get on and watch that slide by slide as you break it down. And so it's being very transparent on where the city's at and the direction it's in. So I appreciate that report. Does council have any questions on the report? I'll just open it to you guys.
Yeah, I just want to say, I just want to start by acknowledging the work staff has put into this capital improvement program. This document is significant, and it reflects the real effort and long-term planning of you, Mr. Tree, and your staff. It appears we need to be very clear about something tonight. This isn't just about what we plan, it's about what we actually can deliver. Last year, we planned roughly $149 million in projects, and 83 million were completed. I think that's a substantial gap. So the question before I ask is well, it's not an ask, it's just a phrase. Isn't just what we want to include, it's whether we are setting realistic expectations for the public. I strongly support investing in our core infrastructure, like the water system, the public, and the street maintenance, and the police, and the fire. Those are essential services that directly impact the safety and quality of life for our residents. So with that, I appreciate the report that you did. I really do. And thank you. With that, I yield back to you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Rivas, and we're going to get a good chance to go line by line coming up here. So go ahead, Vice Mayor. You had something you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say great job on the deck. It really gives us an overview. You know, when I started digging into this a few years ago, it was confusing. This simplifies it quite a bit, gets a good entry level on, overview. And I like the 10-year view. Can you bring up the 10-year investment, the big pie chart? This is the...
Vern, can you help me out to go back to, does it give a slide number down at the bottom?
It's, I don't think they have
I have a slide number on mine, like 7. It's the big pie chart, the one that's all-inclusive.
10 years of investment.
Yeah. You went too far.
There, that one.
There it is.
All right, so I just want to comment on this because, and the entry level, it's easy to get lost in the minutia because there's so much here, and it's easy to get, steered in a general fund, Measure I, Measure H, enterprise, transportation, all that stuff mixed together. This is what looks to me like a fully burdened slide. This is like the one that's the bird's eye view of a fully burdened. Because when you look at this, you got your bridges and streets at the most. We're spending most of our money on bridges and streets over 10 years. So it's good long term. You're also looking at your water infrastructure, 27%. Public parks, 15%. Those are the 3 big hitters. Now, what I like about this slide is it puts everything in perspective. Because we often get stuck down in the money that doesn't have any hooks on it, which is the general fund. This is a $2 billion or $1.2 billion look. So when you look at fire and you look at police and you look at airport and you look at transit and you look at wastewater, you look at these things in this perspective, it puts a better perspective on what the city does in totality. and it does it over time. And so oftentimes we get hung up down in the weeds on certain things, and that's important because we want to make sure the devil's in the detail, right? But to help the public understand what it is that what the city does, this slide tells a really good story because it gives you a good perspective on all of what the city does. I wanted to just make that point. I have a lot of other points I'd like to make, but I wanted to just, for the public's sake, to just, this is a good perspective slide on all the other things that we were looking at today because it puts it all in one place and it helps you to see the percentages in a better, I would say, perspective. It may not be the same for others, but I've looked at charts quite a bit over the years, and that one I like a lot. I also wanted to make a statement. If, let's see, there's a couple of slides in here that are, one of them is investing in Porterville's future. Man, you're going fast. Can you read them that fast? Wow. Whoa.
He is the man.
Okay, I love this slide too. There's been a lot of discussion this year about Measure H and Measure I and those things. This gives us, the targets, the perspective. I like the detail that was added here about the public safety building, where we were spending some of this Measure H money on the fire department, and explains some of the opportunities with how this money is spent from a certain perspective as far as a target, right? Because I think the library is a 15% target. And we didn't spend all 15% on that because we spent some on fire station. Look on the opposite side, and I would say this just for those that are looking in, we had some big ticket items. And what I mean by that is we put in a community center, and we're also talking about a library. We also have some unfunded liabilities. They distort some of this because if you look at Measure I, it looks like 82% is spent on public safety, or generally speaking, but we put took $8.5 million out of that into the community center. That's way more than 15%. So I think there's some perspective here because we could have used that Measure I money on other things, and I just want to give you guys some ideas. So that's about 90 lane miles that we spent on Measure I that went to the community center. And if I would just make this bold statement, and it's probably going to get some backlash, but this man's perspective on this budget, if I knew today, or when I voted on the community center, I may not have voted for that community center because it drained all of the coffers. And when we first voted on that, and there's 13 million there, 4.5 million was ARPA funds. We said, wow, we had plenty of money. We're going to do the library, we're going to do the community center, we're going to fix the roads, we're going to do all this stuff. We were told it was all doable. After a couple of audits, we're looking back and saying, we're in a pinch, we're in a pickle now. So we're going to have to get creative. And I want to leave on a positive note to just say that understanding that there's a trade-off between some of the capital projects, because I think the community really wants and needs that community center. The question is, can we afford it? And now that we've done that, the second question is, how are we going to be able to afford the library? We certainly are moving towards that, but we have a gap still to fund that, and we'll close that gap if we get creative. But I want to make the point about the road miles. We have to make some trade-offs, and we've made some sacrifices over the last few years with the lane miles going up because we're spending a few $1 million on it now. It's a 600% increase over 10 years because they were being neglected. Now, you can debate all of that on why it was or why it wasn't, but it wasn't being done, and now it is being done, but there's a trade-off, and there's money that's spent there. There's 260 lane miles in the city that need to be paved. What percentage complete are we is a good question. Maybe we're 50%, and it's once you get to one side of the bridge, you got to start painting the bridge again. But it's a moving target is the point, and I would just say when we look at where we're spending this money, we have to make some sacrifices, and we are. But now we got to think big, and I think the last slide that you finished with is the one that's the most compelling slide, the one that says, how do we go and get creative and get some growth so that we can make sure we pay for the things that we voted on and that we have something out in the future that we can deliver for the people. And I think that's what I wanted to convey to you without getting too hung up on some of the small things. But I'd like to go out, and this might be my lead in to the last. When I went out to Visalia today, and I go out there off and on, but Cart Mill, I don't know if everybody knows where Cart Mill is. Yeah. So Cart Mill up on North 99, north of Tulare. It's a new section of Tulare. It's where Tulare's growing. There's a formula here. You put in a bridge, you have a couple of anchor tenants there, you get a Chick-fil-A, you get some building there, you start building houses. Now you can travel both sides of the freeway. It's good logistically. Now that's a Caltrans bridge, but the formula is similar to what we're going to be talking about tonight, I think, and that is when we look at the SO2 area, there's some opportunities for some bridges. And if we think about how other cities are growing, we can look around us and use that as a benchmark, but we can also talk to people. And my homework says, if we can improve some of the ways that we get in and out of our city, it improves our traffic. If we put a bridge in down here off of Newcomb, the traffic on Olive and Henderson that's going east and west is going to be less, a lot less. It's a bottleneck for the whole city. And what does it do for us? It opens us up in that area of town to go north-south so that we can connect with the airport, with the casino, with other manufacturing, but it also opens us up maybe for other anchor tenants that might be able to grow. This is what Cart Mill represents to me. It's a way forward. Now, that's a big project. When I was a kid, we were working on, and I'm old, the discussion in this body was, how do we get the Parkway? It took 30 years to get that done, 35 years, because we had to get the bridges first. And so bridges, bridges, bridges. Now, there's something on here, and I'm going to lead with this, Mayor, and then I'm going to turn it over to you.
I'm going to say you're stealing my idea.
I'm going to turn it over to you, but I'm just saying that I'm looking around, and we've got a bunch of money in the CIP that's earmarked to go out and create a gateway on Olive, and it's not the right formula. I think we need to look at that and our prioritization with the bridges and how they affect us and how we live and work and move around in the city.
Let's call it the great pivot, Vice Mayor. And so we'll get to that here as we go line by line, but I echo what you're saying, and I think it's the right direction for the city for the future. If you would go back to just before the very last slide, looking at some of the deficits. Something you had mentioned on the 28 million, 28.7, almost 29 million, Measure R alternative, and then we have the region, 2 million, and then it's good to see the golf course is coming down. It looks like we're making strokes on that payment. That's a good thing. You said Villa Street, I think that was a $12.2 million project. We haven't been reimbursed on that. And I guess to fully ask my question, is that our fault or is that TCAG's fault?
I'm not.
I probably shouldn't put it that way, but what can we do to get reimbursed?
Yeah, well, staff is focusing in on these projects where the city needs to get reimbursed. It's really focusing in staff time to make sure we get that done, and then working with our partners to ensure that once they receive that paperwork, they can quickly turn it around. The fear is if we wait too long, and Ted at TCAG, and I love the guy, he's investing everywhere throughout the community. He likes projects to happen quick. If he
likes
feels,
the shovel ready, yes.
Yeah, and if we wait too long, I mean, he may shift those funds somewhere else. Now, I don't think any of our projects are technically in jeopardy, but that is a threat because he wants projects being done quickly. So staff and working with our partners, we need to buckle down and make this happen.
Okay, and just something I think of, and I could look at Finance Director. I believe this is your last meeting with us, right? So I get to weigh on you one more time, but.
I have one more meeting.
Okay, all right. So $28 million in interest annually, it's probably a lot of money.
the 28 million, and that consists of several projects. I know Mr. Tree mentioned Villa Street, but that is not one of the projects. The three
Okay.
big projects that are, we need to file claims for are going to be the Butterfield Stage Corridor, Tule River Parkway, and Santa Fe Byway would be another big project. And there are other smaller projects.
So
that
the
make up
Santa
that
Fe is
amount.
complete, right? And Tule River Parkway is
Yes.
complete? And so those are ones that we can bill for and fill our coffers back. And what I'm getting at is, if we have $28 million that isn't in our bank account, then we're not collecting
And we're not
interest on it.
collecting interest on, correct.
And so my thought, now, I understand it takes time to get this billing done, but I think it's something that we got to really focus in on, just from my perspective. I'm no financial advisor, but
Could you estimate what that is?
The interest off the top
Yeah.
of my head,
At what percent?
I couldn't give you a number, an exact number.
Couple $100,000?
yeah, 3% annually, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Okay. Well, who's responsible for collecting this?
Well,
Ultimately,
let's not go that far into the weeds, but
I'll
let's
take
just,
responsibility.
we'll draw the line of, hey, let's prioritize that. So let's move on to the CIP, and Councilman Rivas, I don't mean to step on your toes there, but let's not draw too much blood here. We just focus in on that. Let's go into the CIP line by line.
Yeah, we can do that. I highlighted and I provided a summary of really the notable projects. I cover most of them. Now, if you'd like, the mayor, I can definitely pull up each page and we can talk about projects identified. Would that be easier rather than, or you want each project?
Well, I bet we all have some priorities. You know, I think since the vice mayor already queued it up and getting to the Olive Bridge, this is the talk that I had with the vice mayor and what I'm calling the great pivot. You know, we've been designing, we've been looking at the Olive Bridge, and I think to myself, what are we getting for the Olive Bridge? Obviously, it's safety deal is the biggest concern on widening an Olive Bridge, but as far as economic growth, what are we gaining? Because it just bottlenecks back into a 2-lane, and we're not growing that way. We are projecting, we've already done the environmental for the SO2 project. So that's where the growth for the city is going. And so my thought on this great pivot is going away from the Olive Bridge and more focusing in on the Newcomb Bridge. And I know that we've put some money into the design for the Olive Bridge. I know there's some federal dollars that are tied to it. I know we have to do some rehab because there was some damage done during 2023 flood. And I think all those things are very important and need to continue going forward. But the widening of that bridge, I don't think is the right approach for the city of Porterville. And so I don't have the numbers in front of me here, but I know there's around $15 million worth of Measure R funds tied to this between the county, city, and TCAG.
Specifically for the bridge widening, it's, our estimate is $6 million. That's currently programmed for the 27-28 year. And then when you talk about, everything from the bridge east to Westwood, we call that the Olive Gateway. There's an additional $12 million
Yeah.
that is programmed for those improvements.
So as we go through, I look at the city where there's a lot of safety issues, right? I could claim that the Porter Slough at Westwood, just north of Henderson, is a safety issue, right? It bottlenecks there. I could claim that the connector road in between Castle Street and Lombardy Street is a safety issue with not the proper ingresses and egresses with the school back up against the canal. Could we shift some of these funds from maybe this Olive Bridge to more prioritizing the Newcomb Bridge and some of these projects that are inner city? I know Councilman Rivas has campaigned on Union Street and putting in sidewalk, curb, and gutter. So my thought is, you just dropped 12 million, and I think you said 6 on the other side, so we're talking around $18 million. Can we focus more on inner projects that will have a greater impact on our population than widening of the Olive Bridge? That was a lot there, so
Yeah, I think to summarize, if that's the desire of the council to focus and put a priority on the SO2 master plan development, we can absolutely pivot and start working on it. Now, I think when you talk about the bridge, there's obviously the design, but there's going to be land acquisition, and those are all identified. Dollar amounts are identified, as well as the construction of the bridge. There's, for the whole master plan, staff had identified multiple bridges plus a pedestrian bridge that was included in the master plan. But if the council's desire is to focus on the Newcomb Bridge, the Westwood Bridge, as well as the frontage road improvements off of 190, I would say those are the 3 major road and bridge investments to set us up for the SO2 development.
Yeah, and even talking about the Westwood Bridge, I mean, that was the bridge that was compromised during the 2023 floods, where we had city crews, Public Works Department out in a tractor removing debris so that the bridge didn't get totally washed out.
Yeah, and also why Westwood is important is that's where all of our infrastructure, underground infrastructure is.
As far as like
through
sewage and water goes through there as well, yeah.
So what you're saying is Westwood, that bridge between Olive and 190, that's pretty much the critical heart of the infrastructure for Porterville. That's why that we should prioritize on that bridge and maintain it, because of the flooding that we had. That could have, well, anyway, for the flooding that we had.
Yeah, not only to prevent.
It's low.
Yeah, it's low, but it has all of our infrastructure, and the SO2 master plan, there's a whole web page on our city website that has the plan. It has recordings of the workshops that they presented. And if you look at that, because the infrastructure, really all the infrastructure is on Westwood, it was designed to start from Westwood and work east, and infrastructure would expand to the east as development happens, because that's the primary point, to support development and growth.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and looking at this, Rich, it's the whole group together. Mr. City Manager, the SO2 is like there's 4. One's a pedestrian, but there's 3 bridges and a pedestrian. No, that one's a frontage road. 1 frontage road, 1 pedestrian bridge, and then 2 bridges. When I look at this, I'm thinking to myself, that whole area, I'm in favor of moving all of that forward, because the sooner we get that done, the sooner we can take the burden off the traffic, and the sooner we can start moving towards growth. I think also, at the same time, right above it, you have the Olive Avenue Bridge. I think we should modify it, maybe fix it, refurbish it, maybe look at how we might be able to address some of the safety concerns, but widening it, I mean, maybe we should go back to the drawing board on that and see if there's a way that we can modify that and move some of that money to these other priorities.
There are federal funds or federal grant tied to that bridge, right?
Actually, no. That was a note that was carried over from prior capital improvement programs, that they were looking at federal funds for potentially using to use on the Olive Bridge. And to be honest, and staff, please, those that are knowledgeable and experts in this field on some of these projects, it's important to note that that bridge is not in the city limits. It's the county's bridge, and they came to us as asking for help, like essentially go in halves. And then we took that, and Olive Bridge is not a new project. It's been talked about a lot in the past. And if we were going to widen it, we also needed to do some safety improvements along that area and really kind of improve from the bridge all the way through Westwood. You all notice if you're driving north to south over all of there's a huge hump, and Dukes of Hazards, if you travel too fast, could happen.
Yeah.
Well, these bridges going to the south are bordering on county too, right? The Newcomb Bridge would, right?
No.
Or is that now? No?
It's
Is-
been,
is that-
LAFCO annexed it in.
Would
yeah.
that be under the SO2 jurisdiction?
No, that is our jurisdiction.
That is our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So the one on Olive going towards Poplar, that is county, you thought?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Beltran?
Yeah, so, and thanks, City Manager, for the part. The Olive Bridge comes from, more of it was a county ask, and that's why it had been in here for quite a while. I know the city was more interested because of the development of the Burton schools out there, the high school and the junior highs, a lot more flow of traffic in that area. So that's where the city was, of course, the county would be leading this and helping with the design, but this was kind of our part of it. And so that's where it comes from. But I'm in agreement as far as there's nothing west of the river that, to me, would justify the expansion, especially that dollar amount. I was sharing in our agenda meeting yesterday, when my father was an engineer here with the city 20 years ago, they were talking about the Newcomb Bridge, and they just didn't have the money. It was just way too expensive, but that was always a potential, and I'm glad to see that coming forward. And similar, I was aware, as the mayor said, when we were on this council, when the flood fight happened, the vulnerabilities of the city and the infrastructure with the Westwood Bridge. And yeah, thank you for those crews and the Public Works Department for how bad that could have been, but their dedication to the infrastructure was commendable. But yeah, I too believe if there's any movement of these funds from the Olive Bridge, I would be in full support of expanding the Newcomb Bridge. I know that's going to be something, even though it's in our jurisdiction, it's going to be part of Caltrans as well because of the 190 and how that's going to, but it's all city, and I believe.
That's, continue, sir. I
Yeah, just the mayor and I were on when we rezoned all that area. And so just as they spoke earlier, I want to give a little feedback on where we were at, where it came from, and my support of shifting funding. I do have some issue of, and it would be a lot less dollar amount of looking at that West Olive area to maybe make it a little bit more user-friendly, whether it's curb and gutter, stuff like that, but nothing to the dollar amount that we see here in front of us. But
Or even like a turning lane for people to go off. I know,
Right,
what
a lot
I've been
simpler.
told is the people that are trying to take a left or head east from the school, that's the big hazard.
Can I interject? When I take my grandkids and I drop them off there, it is a very dangerous intersection. If there was a additional lane where people can veer off and they can go, west or east or come over, that would substantiate a lot of congestion.
yeah, there was talk of maybe some type of a flashing light
Yes,
or control
something, yes.
light there. But that's very expensive too, and especially if it's
Of course.
temporary, if we don't know what the design is going to
course.
look like. But I think that's something that we're all speaking to that could be looked at for a lot less dollar amount.
So something I learned in DC and lobbying, if we could get this Newcomb Bridge, you want to do a bridge, it takes 10 years, right? You're going through the environmental, especially crossing a body of water. There's a lot to it. So this is why I call it the great pivot, because if we go this direction, the vice mayor already said it. This helps with congestion in the town. It gives an exit out the middle of the town to the south to 190. And not only that, but it's going to spur economic growth in that SO2 development. And what was projected to be 30 to 50 years out, now we're looking much sooner. So it sounds like we have a majority that's in support of this. Is this something that you're going to need a vote on, or just direction tonight, and then we'll bring it back, right?
Yeah, this is a draft we're presenting to council for their consideration. You can make all the changes you want, and we'll take those changes, and the final capital improvement program would be adopted with the budget.
So part of this bridge, right, we can't just build a bridge to nowhere. I sound like old Newsom for a sec, but the other part is we need to have a connector road, and I think that's this frontage road, or no, it's not. The frontage road between Tule River and 190. Yeah, that's on the other. So we need to also look at the design of a connector for Newcomb to go all the way through to 190. And then there's also going to be design, most likely, and I know there's already talks with Caltrans, because I've had them, of having a roundabout there at one point. So that has to be all incorporated in something that we could go and lobby for. This is something that we want to have shovel-ready, get through the environmental, and we could start lobbying Sacramento and DC to bring in those federal and state dollars to make this project happen. Because this is probably going to cost a whole lot more than the 18 million that I've projected. We're only going to be able to get design and get to a certain point. We're going to need help from the bigger agencies.
Yeah, I
or
agree.
from the state and feds.
Yeah, staff will take this direction. We'll work together and put together a plan to present to you. And then we'll also check, the available funding sources to see what exactly we can program for this fiscal year to get started on this.
Now, I just want to state for the record too, I've talked with our county supervisor, Dennis Townsend, and gave him this vision, and it was something that he was in support of and something he wouldn't mind looking at. He agrees with the idea of widening Olive Bridge and what are we getting out of it. Safety is, of course, very important, but long game, there's a lot of safety issues in town, and so long gaming it, the Newcomb Bridge is the priority bridge that we want to build here in Porterville. Okay.
And for those that are following along, we're on page 2 of the capital improvement program. Right in the middle is this O2, we give a designation. I did want to highlight, just since we're on that page, the downtown parking lot is all at the top of this page. I spoke about this project in my presentation, but I also did want to just take a moment and let council know that this project will be on the May 5th agenda, and we'll go more into detail. But that one's a good one to highlight.
Yeah.
But then down below at the bottom of that page are 2 corridor improvement projects. Just want to recognize that the Main Street intersection improvements, that project in partnership with Caltrans, and the dollar amount that's listed on this page is our local match to that project. And that project is essentially done. We haven't been invoiced by Caltrans as of today, so that's why the full dollar amount is still listed. And then if you notice, if you've been out by JN 190, the interchange, the on-ramp improvement, that project just started as well. So that's why it's still listed on this upcoming fiscal year. And then if we want to just,
Well, and just to go on record, the Main Street parking lot, we had financed 1.2 million. So you had to do some budget magic, I'm going to call it, to get to the 2 million to fill that 20-year hold where JCPenney's burned years ago.
Again, it's a changing environment when it comes to some of these major projects. Several years ago, we had an estimate, and essentially these are estimates, but I will, to that point, we have bid this project. We're going to present those bids to council at the next council meeting, and so that number, yes, it has increased, but we've found funding to make it happen if that's a desire of the council.
Gotcha. And then as we're going through, and if you guys, as we go page by page here, if you guys have stuff that you want to interject, please do as we go. But something I really want to highlight for streets improvement is the Castle Avenue extension. And this is $250,000 for engineering and environmental to have that connector in between Labarty Street and Castle Street. Also been called the Lazy S Road, but this is another approach where we need to have shovel-ready projects so that we can lobby Sacramento and DC. And so glad to see that amount of money on there. It's the right direction for the future of our city. Is there any other comments on these 2 pages before we move on?
And for those following along, that's page 3. The castle is kind of in the middle of the page, if you're following along. On page 3 for bridges and streets.
Gotcha,
So,
yeah, just right under
on that
streets.
page, up at the top, it's under construction right now, if you've been out at Westwood and 190, but that's our local match to the hybrid roundabout that's currently under construction.
The 3.7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Down at the bottom, and then continue on to page 4, our Grand Avenue reconstruction, specifically from 4th to Plano. Quite a bit of underground infrastructure work being done on that segment. And then towards the bottom, I want to highlight the Westwood Avenue Master Plan utilities. And that's kind of in the Monte Vista School area. It includes storm drain, as well as a main, and then recycle water.
And something just below that is the Westwood Street Partial Reconstruction Project, Henderson Avenue to Westfield, including Porter Slough Crossing. So this is that bottleneck I was talking about earlier, where I really want to see the design and the environmental done on it. So once again, it gives us another checklist to go and lobby in DC and Sacramento. Love seeing that there's $250,000 allocated this year for that.
Yeah, and that's just specifically for design and environmental. We're also have identified funding for the surveying and right-of-way acquisition. So we really want to get, like you said, it's an important project.
Yes.
And we want to get started on it.
Is there any other comments as we keep going?
No, I like that we're going quickly through those because we can get stuck here for hours, but those projects, that one with the bridge, I know, traffic. Around all these schools around town, we continue to have all these challenges. If we can get them to shovel-ready, let's try to push them and campaign on them and try to get that money, because even if we don't have the money to do those, if we have them shovel-ready, we have an opportunity to get them done.
Lobbying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the next page is really just one project, and it's in regards to the Phase 2B Main Street reconstruction. And the only reason why there's funding listed for that project that is essentially complete, those are just punch list items. As of today, hasn't been fully dispersed out, and we're still working with the contractor. So that's why it's listed on that page.
Okay, we can move on to the next page.
Yeah, we have some improvements going on from Westwood to Matthew at the top of the page. 1.1 million for lift station number 9 upgrade and a force main, as well as some water line replacement and storm drain and recycled water, purple pipe being put in. Towards the bottom, another important project when it comes to safety is the Olive Avenue Median Island Safety Project. And that's if you've been on Olive and I don't know, I don't want to say 100, but there are a lot of turn lanes, right and left or north and south off of Olive on those the pocket turns. And that project staff has been working on to improve the safety along Olive.
Is one of those areas like right where the adult school is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Received some complaints about that one.
Yeah, turn pockets. Thank you, Councilman Beltran. So that's for design and construction.
Okay.
And then the final page for bridges and street project, another important project where this is in partnership with the Tule River Tribe of California, which is the 2 pedestrian bridges and a complete street project where the city is on behalf of the tribe kind of managing this project. We're not performing it they're actively involved. This is an important project. It has a lot of visibility from a state level to see a city and a tribe working together, and a lot of notoriety for Porterville taking this project on and working with the tribe. I commend staff also working with tribal staff to move this project along.
Yeah.
It's a great project. When we were up there, AJ and I, we're looking at where they're going to put it, and it'll really help them with the foot traffic over there because it's the topography. If they can get that bridge, it really helps them a lot up there. And it's a great partnership because, you know, it's building our relationship with the tribe and you know, bridging some things that we probably need to bridge there.
Yeah, and it's important, those funds were awarded to the tribe, but because they're an independent nation, the city played an important role to be able to fund that project. But that was a project that the tribe and the city kind of partnered on, and then we ultimately became the prime and helps with the funding, how the flow of funding works.
I know Ms. Weaver's been working on that, so thank you, Ms. Weaver.
I want to share real quick, since I've been on council, this is going into the 4th year. It's the first year I came on, that was been our NPATA. And so I've been following this the whole time. I'm like, this is how long sometimes these projects take.
Yeah, and then finally, another important project, and when you're speaking of Villa, this is one area that we didn't complete, but we want to complete, which is the Porter Slough crossing on Villa.
All right, let's break my constituents' hearts now. Next page.
Signals, there's, you can see, just a very
there.
long list of pedestrian safety projects from 3 different Hawk crossings. These are in addition to what is being constructed along the Butterfield corridor. A long list of rapid flashing beacon projects that have been designed. It's ready to go out to.
And I want to go into that. There's 10 of these that we're putting in all around the city where there's been major requests. So really excited about that. But something I've been working on for 3 years, Mr. City Manager, and I want to try to prioritize here, use my weight as the mayor of Porterville, is the Prospect and Castle. That's going to include curb and ramp. Is there a way that we could prioritize to make that the first one we do?
Yeah, well, this is a package project. We'll definitely work with the contractor once the contractor has been selected. And I think it's bid as a, you got to, Sarah, how many projects are on the main, and then there's add alternates?
I believe we have 6 on the main, and then there's 4 add alternates. So the project will be awarded based on the bid on the 6 main ones, and then hopefully, because there's so many included, we'll be getting a more reasonable bid for each of them. So then council would then decide on the add alternates which one they would want to add or not add according to how the bids come in. And we have made a note of your priority on that one, but ultimately it would be all of your decision.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Can you simplify it to time frame?
So unfortunately, some of the things when it comes to signals, they have long lead times. So sometimes we get lucky and new ones are out and we're able to get those first. So it all depends on the lead time for those. But
This is for the flashing
correct,
beacon lights?
because of the poles and things, they have
Gotcha.
long lead times. So as long as we can get them quickly, it should move relatively quickly, about 90 days.
Wow.
And it's working days, so that'll be about 4 months.
Okay. And then, does any of the council have any questions on some of these? So move on to the Newcomb. This is another one that I've been working on, the Newcomb Mulberry Light. We have it funded. It's about a $1.2 million project. But we're not going to be able to get it done this year. Is that correct?
We're going to try our best, and Sarah will explain.
So as I've promised you, I am completely 100% honest to my own detriment, and the odds of that happening are not great because of the long lead time on ordering the poles and things that go there. So we are going to take it out to bid. We should be getting permission for that sometime in May. and then be getting as much of the infrastructure done as possible so that it's an easy install once the poles are available. But that's just traditionally what we see with these, so.
Gotcha. And I appreciate it. Not everything goes in our favor, so I get it. But obviously, it's been a problem for many, many years. And I think the constituents seeing or maybe hearing that, hey, this is funded, we are in the process of doing it, and that's why I'm just highlighting it tonight. I know that it's not the best news, it's not going in this year, but it's in the works.
It's in the works to start, so that's always like the best step, so.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Weaver.
Don't go too far. Sarah is our project manager. She's involved in so many projects. She actually, and does an amazing job. I don't know how she juggles this. When you look at, like last year, $83 million in planned projects, she does a fantastic job. So I want to highlight that. And
I don't sleep.
you don't sleep. But as we move in, like we're moving into water infrastructure, I think Robert will join Sarah in kind of explaining some of these projects or answer any questions.
Okay, before we move on, I just want to highlight one more light, and this is at Porter and Olive Avenue. There's been lots of complaints for a lot of years about the turning signals, the lights not in conjunction with each other, and so here we are, we're going to work on this, but there's going to be a little delay on this one as well.
So it's the same concerns with the lead time on the supply chain when it comes to the signal poles themselves. There is some new ones that are going in. Ultimately, we're also upgrading the ones that are there. This intersection is also kind of cumbersome for us because the responsibility is shared with Caltrans, meaning they make us do the work and then they tell us to kick rocks while they manage it. So it's been troublesome so far, just coordinating all that and getting everything going. They were supposed to also be upgrading their signals at the intersection, or at the highway off-ramp and on-ramp, and that's been delayed on their part, even though they told us to hurry and get ours done. But the good news is we do have the grant funding to help fund this one. We're working through one final right-of-way issue on one of the corners there, and then it'll be moving forward as well.
Yeah, and I think this is in Councilman Rivas or Beltran's district, and so.
I think it's Mr. Beltran.
So, but it's just another project that we're delivering on, the city is, and so I just wanted to highlight that because I've received multiple complaints about that intersection, and so we are addressing it, it's in the works.
Are we talking about where the Black Bear is at?
Yes,
Yes.
That's Beltran in my district, yeah.
yeah, I think it's a border, but,
I heard it all the way out in District 4.
Yeah, that too.
yeah, so it's,
I think everyone goes through there at least several
Yeah.
times a week, so.
yeah, exactly, it's just one of those corridor roads, and we're addressing it, and it's in the works, so when you talk with your constituents, you could talk to it. Okay, we could continue, unless there's other questions,
Let's move forward.
okay?
We're now going to transition into water and storm drain. I want to point out at the top of the water infrastructure page, just the consolidations of Del Oro and Hope. This is going to be a multi-year project. And we try to fine-tune these numbers based on the information that we have and our partners. But I want to commend, again, Sarah and the staff for working on, these are two big water consolidation projects. They're going to take multi-year. And then the other, as far as water capacity programs, we have well 37 starting. And then on the sustainable groundwater management, kind of this section, just notating the continued investment in, we call alternative water capacity sources. Essentially, at the end of the day, it's buying water shares when they become available and at the right price. And then as far as the recharge program, the notable project is the North Recharge Basin and Infrastructure Improvement Project, and that will go to construction. We've programmed $2.6 million for construction and construction management. And then down at the very bottom, our tertiary treatment at the Corporation Yard, there's some funding for some environmental work for that phase 1 and phase 2. Those are the big projects, and I think it includes water and also wastewater. We with the direction of the council, hired a consultant to help us really develop what our plan is. And I think there's going to be down the road, and Robert, please jump in, we need to have a conversation of what options are available to the city and get some direction from council of what path we want to travel.
This is a long conversation too, because I love that we're changing out a lot of stuff at the same time with the purple pipe and with the drainage, and we've added a lot of infrastructure, but there's a lot of it that's, millions and millions of dollars that are underground that are not being used because we need to know where we're gonna go. And that's kind of a moving target too, so it's not really in focus yet. And I would really like to see us talk about where we're going, because maybe we should slow down on putting the purple pipe in until we know what that's gonna be. If we're spending millions of dollars on that and we're not sure what it is, I think we need to be cautious until we know what it is.
Wait, there's got to be a plan. I mean, we're not just throwing purple pipe in the ground. There's got to be a layout with the extent, there's a map, right?
So, yeah, the infrastructure is going in the ground where green spaces where we anticipate that water will be used. However, we're meeting with Carollo in, I think, the next coming month. They're going to provide us a report with the nitrogen control plan and go over options that they're going to provide us with about 3 options to review, and then we'll bring it to council and for their consideration. Yeah.
So there isn't like a master plan for where purple pipe, there's not a map of how we need to plumb the city with this?
So there is an idea layout of how it would work and ideally work the best. And so what we've been doing is, as we're reconstructing roads, because essentially a road is a 25-plus year when you reconstruct
yeah,
it,
when you're
you don't
going
want to
down.
cut it up again if you know it's a thoroughfare that you need that to go in on. So it's spend the money now or redo the road later to do it. And that was kind of the approach that was being taken, but it was only in those main corridors that would then feed everything. So like Morton, when it gets completely reconstructed, it's planned to go in there because that's the main connection from the plant through the city. And then Butterfield, because we're building it, we
Yes.
put it in as a main cross going north and south to help prevent reconstruction from happening in the future as those options become available to us.
Is that, just while you're on that subject, is that also why we need to work on the Westfield or the Westwood Bridge?
Yes, it's also so making all those connections while we're there.
Exactly. So you don't
So we got to push both those bridges, don't we?
Yeah, but we got to prioritize because you're only going to do. Yeah, exactly. I agree, but we got to pick one.
I agree with A and B, but both bridges do need to be looked into.
Yeah. Question for you, Robert. The A-frame at Newcomb, is that water going through there or is that sewage? Or is it both?
It's both.
It's both, okay. So we have, that's water and sewage. On Westwood Bridge, it is, I forget the name of it, but it's the silicone, it's the heavies within our sewage
Yeah,
that we push out there, right?
That is correct. There's
Now,
this-
do we have sewage and water going across the Westwood Bridge? I don't believe so, but
I believe it is, we have a sludge line,
it's just a sludge line.
and then we have a 24-inch effluent line that's underneath the.
Okay, so that's from the sewage plant, that's what we're watering agricultural with.
That's correct.
So the main one, though, for, public safety side, water and sewage, is the A-frame bridge at Newcomb Street.
That is correct.
Okay, so I just want to highlight that for you guys so that we fully get, as far as the heavies, can you go more into detail? I know there's like big augers, we're pushing silicone and heavies with the sewage out on the Westwood Bridge. Can you talk to that a little bit, because some of my colleagues probably don't know about that fully?
So the 6-inch digested sludge line comes from the treatment plant. It's about 4.3 miles to the airport, to the sludge beds. And the material, once it's gone through the digestion process, it is pumped out to the airport. And we have drying beds, solar drying beds out there. So that whole area right there over the bridge, that's where the pipeline actually hangs on the bridge. So
Yes.
it's very susceptible to damage. We need to make sure that that was what we were concerned about during the flood. We wanted
of
to make
course.
sure that it was not damaged. Otherwise, it would create a lot of problems. Yeah.
I just wanted to draw the line of what the Westwood Bridge infrastructure it had compared to that A-frame bridge, and really highlighting why it's so important to prioritize Newcomb, because that is the connector to the middle of town. It connects us to the airport, the casino. It's the future. And so I want to just reaffirm that with you, gentlemen.
Just real quick, too, and thank you, Mayor, that's great knowledge for and educating the community on what that is. But the other thing I wanted to address briefly, and the Vice Mayor spoke to it, is the $60 million kind of hold positions there a few years out. Because we are, I believe, going into year 5 of a request we have from the state to hold off on our, what we're going to, you just mentioned, working with Carrillo on the nitrification issue. And this is more or less like a placeholder. If we need to have that plan in 10 years, now it's like 5-ish, maybe 5.5 years. And this will help let the state know we're working on it. We're trying to get a plan together. So that $60 million may not be $60 million. When we get the report back, that'll really give us an idea of what we need to do. So those were just almost placeholders just in case, well, I mean, I guess worst case scenario kind of a thing.
That's correct. So they're going to do the evaluation. They wanted to, them to come up with some options for us to look over and get council's approval on that. There's 2 phases to it. One was the nitrification, where they're requiring us to reduce the nitrates discharge from the sewer system, or I'm sorry, from the sewer plant. So we need to make sure that we're in compliance with that. And then on top of that, and that's estimated at about $60 million when we did the report several years ago. And on top of that, they were talking about tertiary, what we could do with tertiary water. And there's a lot of options that we can do with tertiary water because it's unrestricted. But we just want to, it's very costly, so we just want to make sure that we meet that compliance with the nitrates first off, and then we'll look at in the future and see what we could do with the water unrestricted areas. Unrestricted use, I'm sorry. Does that make sense?
What Councilman Beltran's talking about, and not to make our night go longer, but I sure do want to exercise that new major questions doctrine from the Supreme Court, where when you have bodies that are not elected making laws, forcing cities like Porterville to do unfunded mandates that we can't afford, we'd have to pull out bonds to do, you fight back and sue. And so, and then it feels like unusual punishment by my government as well down that road, but I think I'm stretching a little tonight. Okay, we're satisfied here. We could move on to the next slide.
Yeah, the next page, which talks about well number 34, the equipping and construction of $4.7 million project. In the middle, I want to highlight, and maybe an opportunity if the council desires, there is some planned investment for a replacement of a generator, 400 kilowatt. It's planned out in 2930, and we do have some generator projects, investments in other areas of the CIP, but that may be one to move up.
Well, I mean, we spent $500,000 in generators, right, further down, and so I don't mind that out. Let's get to that part of the CIP, and then if we need to go back to this 400 kilowatt, I'd like to ask Robert or Director Alvarez some questions towards the end.
Yeah, sure. But we have a purchase of a flatbed trailer. I think that item is actually coming soon to the council to consider, as well as the Martin Hill tank booster pump upgrades. And then down below is our storage reservoir rehabilitation program. We have East Porterville, the 3 million tank Catholic. I'm just slurring those words now, but there's a list of projects listed in the storage reservoir rehabilitation program. Robert, do you want to highlight any of those projects at the bottom of this page?
The cathodic protection, is that?
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, what page is that? 13. So we're looking at the storage tank, the rehabilitation program. We're going to have divers go down inside the tanks to check the condition of the tanks. They will do the inspection, and then, based on the reports, we can go in there and do the repairs that need to be made. So we have to program that over a period of time, because once we get, we're going to have to do those tanks when, not in the summertime, so the off-season, basically, so we can go in there and do what we need to do to make sure the tanks are coated and inspected, and make sure that the cathodic protection is working.
That's an expensive project.
And then down at the bottom of that page, you want to talk about the SCADA upgrades? I know that's a big project when it comes to managing our water.
Yeah, so the SCADA system that the water department currently has is pretty outdated. So with the construction of well 34, they're going to put in a new SCADA system. So there's going to be a new unit at the facility 555 North Prospect at the Corporation Yard. And then we're going to tie all the existing wells and lift stations into the new SCADA system. So we're going to upgrade all the communications to it, and we're going to tie that in so to make sure that we have the most updated system.
Robert, why don't you talk about when the SCADA system goes down, how do we manage our pumps and lift stations?
So currently, we have two reservoir tanks whose SCADA system is not operational, so we have to have staff go out and manually pump the tanks to make sure that the level is going to be sufficient to supply the demand. So the guys have to go out there and physically look at the tank, because we're not getting communications in there. So those are the first two that we want to tie into the new SCADA main system, yeah.
There's not float switches in those, nothing like that, that would
So,
take out that man factor?
excuse me?
Well, taking out the human factor, I mean, a float switch.
So no, the system that was in there is not operational. It's the signal that goes back and tells you the level of the tank. So yeah, no float system in there, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Robert, I wanted to thank you for going out and talking to Mr. Drummond about that tower, that SCADA tower that you guys put in. Is that the only one that we're putting in, or are there others going in?
No.
Ms. Weaver?
That's the only one that's going in. So it's a radio signal monopole to help with communications with the radio meter readers and then the SCADA system. So.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, the one thing that, and I know you went out and talked to Mr. Drummond, but they were just enjoying their view until we put that tower up. So whenever we do any more towers, let's make sure we get some good communication. I don't know if it would have changed anything, but thank you for going out there and talking with them. It's an essential part of the SCADA system, and just an eyesore for the folks that are living out there. So tough challenge, because it's something we really need.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Janie, if you can help highlight and educate the community on the final page, and we're going to see master plan payback on a lot of the infrastructure projects, but Janie, can you explain what the master plan payback is generally?
What page?
No, is that the payback on the
14.
bonds, our loans? Yeah. That's.
No,
We're on all of it.
I'm not familiar with the master pay plan, what that project consists of, but it's out of the Water Development Fund.
Where would the payment to the bonds be? Is that in the operational budget, or?
We do have some bonds funding some of the projects, but it's not the master plan
Okay.
payback.
All right. Thank you.
So does anyone know, because we're showing we're almost paying $500,000
We'll get some,
annually.
yeah, we'll get some clarification on that, because you'll notice on all the infrastructure, we have master plan payback.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is, but we'll just double check.
Okay. All right, this is the boring stuff, so let's keep moving.
Boring, this is very informational. This is what-
Sewer.
This is what the public needs to know.
Really, the only project, essentially, there's two projects. There's a master plan payback for sewer, and then the lift station upgrade at 100,000 on the sewer infrastructure. And then storm drain also has master plan payback funds identified, as well as the municipal storm sewer separate system project. Robert, can you talk to that project at all, or it's a smaller project?
Page 16.
Yeah, page 16, at the top of page 16. There's just some permitting fees and drainage improvements. The MS4. Maybe we'll, and then at the bottom of the sewer list is our Westwood storm drain, Main Street to State Route 65. Improvements for stormwater?
Yeah. So there's a couple.
Should we just move on and come back?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, we've got an answer. We huddled, and we got a final answer.
Sorry, I was distracted. I'll be honest. It's installing missing infrastructure that's there to help improve the drainage in the area and help limit the impact on Haysfield and the different residences that were previously built in the county that have substantial flood issues. So while we're there, we're doing all of that.
Well, so we're no longer going to use Hayesville, this one got by me.
It's to limit the water that goes there. It could potentially still happen because that's essentially what it's used for.
Yeah, of
but
course.
So those major storms, it could still happen, but it should limit it so it's not so all the
I
time.
remember asking about this 3 years ago and wanting to get storm drainage to go north to, there's a big basin there. Is that what's happening, or?
I'll be 100% honest with you. There's like 3 different things that have been kicked around. It's under design now, the best way with all the flows to work to get it moving through
I mean,
those areas.
It's a game changer for Haysfield, right? Those kids out there, so.
As well as the residents that suffer when the flooding happens, because
Ms. Weaver, and we'll do anything for our children, so. Thank you.
generally, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
If it's okay with you, Mayor, we'll switch to wastewater treatment facility, and definitely Robert is an expert in this field. 30-plus years. Robert, you want to walk the council and the community through the wastewater projects?
Sure. I think the mayor was asking about the emergency generator, the 400 kW generator. So that is going to be a portable generator that will be used to power equipment that is not on our stationary generators. We have 2 stationary generators there. One is at the headworks, one is at the blower building. The one at the headworks has been in place since 1994, so we're having trouble meeting smog or airborne requirements. So that one will need to be replaced, but we need engineering to be involved in that because we got to size it appropriately. There's a switch gear that needs to be replaced, so that's a big project. It's costly, but that will run the influent pumps. Mr. Councilman Rivas, he went on the tour and I showed him the 4 raw sewage pumps. Those are the pumps that keep the wastewater from entering the street, so very critical.
If I can interject, I remember you telling me if the question one of the kids asked you was, what happens if those generators stop? And your response was, there would be a lot of stuff all over the roads.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the sewage backs up.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
encouraged, if we have to do anything, have backups for those two generators.
Well, and that was.
That's very crucial.
Some of the talks, when and it really came from constituents reaching out to me and going, if we had a terror attack on the electric grid, would we still be able to supply water and sewage? And I didn't know the answer. And so that's why I had that talk. With what you have here will we be able to still supply water and sewage in a case like that?
Yes, the emergency generator, the portable generator would provide the power to power at least a couple of pumps at the headworks. Not all of them, but a few, just to keep the sewer running through the system. We do have generators for the water system. We need more, but we do have some, and we would be able to provide water depending on how long the power was out or
Yeah,
the grid.
yeah. Well, that's good. That's, now I can answer that question when someone asks me that, so thank you for that. Yes, go ahead, sir.
I had a brief question on that subject.
Yes.
If I can remember right, Edison was looking at putting some solar panels or like a power bank in that area, and I think part of the agreement was that they were going to offer some type of generator for their wastewater treatment facility. Is that still in the works? Is that something we're still talking to them about?
The microgrid, yes, that's going to start construction soon and would provide battery backup power to the wastewater treatment facility.
But it wasn't going to be a generator, but it was just the backup power for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Backup power, yes.
Okay.
I have a question. Is that the one that's going to be designed across from the waste treatment plant? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that one.
It'll be right next to the new maintenance facility in that vacant land.
Thank you.
Okay, we could continue on.
See, Robert, any other notable projects you want to highlight?
Yeah.
We got a
We have
design
a-
of a new office building.
Yeah. There are some water to well evaluations and installations, so those are compliance with the nitrate control program. There are additional wells that what we have currently, and that is to monitor groundwater quality. I think that's basically, the other ones are digester 1 and 4 repairs. We're currently working on that. The other ones are pretty straightforward. The nitrification or denitrification, that's in there, and that's something that we will be looking at in the next month or so with Corolla, and we'll bring that to council. I think that's about it.
Thank you.
I'm glad that 30 million is out there in the future.
Yeah.
The next category is our community development, and in the presentation I talked, this is the area that we have a lot of plans from our general plan, which is programmed tentatively for 2930, but up for next year, one project the council just recently approved would be the finishing up the development ordinance update. This is where we're programming the additional 51,000, as well as an update to our circulation element.
Thank you.
Yeah, continue on, sir.
Maybe I'll take a break, and we're shifting gears to parks and leisure in this section, and probably the help with Sarah, because it includes quite a bit of trails and park improvements, but first up is the completion of the Butterfield corridor, and Donnie, you want to run us through it?
I don't want to hear Donnie, I want to hear Amy. I'm
Amy,
just
all
kidding.
right.
Go ahead. Donnie's like, what the heck?
Go ahead. No, that's fine. We've already spoken actually about a lot of these tonight. That first page, Butterfield corridor, that's continuing on. The Overland, we've already talked about Overland. We've already talked about the new library. Downtown holiday decor, that's the garland you see over Main Street on 5 different locations. That's to be replaced this year. You see that on there for the 40,000. Next page, the Sportsplex. We talked a little bit about that tonight. Mr. Tree did as far as the design getting underway with that. The Murray Park Pond, the perimeter path, that'll be a project we're going to partner with CSED on to continue the concrete ADA accessible path around, all the way around the perimeter of Murray Park, the pond, and provide some additional seating, which will be nice. As far as the pool goes, design and then restroom renovation and restroom roof for out there at the pool. Then we go to the skateboard park lighting. That will be the lighting will be going in as the Veterans Park Trail. That next phase that was spoken about earlier tonight, that's all part of the same project. So as the trail goes by the skate park there and the solar lights get put in along the trail, there'll also be a few added to the skate park area. There's a booster pump potentially that's needed out at the sports complex. So we're just kind of limping by right now, so we'll see if we need to get that replaced this coming fiscal year. And then the final page, we already talked about the Veterans Park Trail tonight. Mr. Tree spoke on that, and that's the end of the projects for this coming fiscal year. They're big, heavy hitters, but we got a lot of billing on it earlier tonight, but that's it.
I would have a brief question on that. Zeller Park's not on the list for any projects or anything coming up?
Not this current coming fiscal year. That one's been blessed with a lot of the CDBG funding with a lot of good projects the last couple years. So this coming one, as of now, we do not. Okay. Sometimes if there is some additional CDBG funds as that plan gets developed, that's when we usually pop those in. But as of now, that won't be the focus for 26-27.
Okay. I remember last year looking forward to maybe having the trails cemented because it's decomposed granite. And so I just was wondering, first, Zeller Park isn't on the list at all for anything even in the next 10 years. And I was hoping that would be, even if it was a couple of years out. So I was wondering why it wasn't on there.
That's something we could add just to get that on the radar. That is a path that's heavily used, and we do have the workout equipment along that trail, so that would be a good addition. Me being a big track and field guy, I always thought it'd be neat to have our all-weather like surface around there. The bicycles would maybe tear it up a little bit, unfortunately, but that'd be really neat to have.
Is that a possibility for Veterans Park, or is that a trail already been designed out? I think that one of the council members had brought that up during our briefing about kind of an all-weather path somewhere.
For Veterans Park?
Mm-hmm.
Veterans is designed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just got a response from TCAG yesterday, so we're finalizing that to be able to move that forward and seek authorization to go out to bid. And then I will share that although it's not listed separately up here for Zalid Park, Zalid Park, as part of the Butterfield corridor improvement, is getting some really great connection to that trail and improvements that way. So while it's not listed separately, is getting things to help connect people to it and when they're using the park or using the trail or vice versa. So it is getting some stuff.
And then while you're up there, I know in the programming the last funds for Butterfield, do you have an idea when that might be completed? It's looking really good.
It's looking like June.
That's
Looking like June. So now that you've seen the big Hawk infrastructure being installed and stuff, you're going to start seeing some public education being put out on our department's Instagram page, Porterville Projects. Follow us, please. And it'll be showing on how those work. Because essentially, they're a pedestrian-controlled traffic signal. So if it's red and you go through it, you've ran a red light. So that's how they work, and they're really, really cool, and they have a lot of visibility, and we're seeing them all over the valley start to come up. And we have a few more coming that will be on the larger crossings for Santa Fe as well, and then on Plano at Chase to connect to the park there and Tule River Parkway Phase 3.
Did I see road work being done on Henderson? there at that crossing?
So there was a temporary patch there for the crossing, and that patch had failed and undermined a little bit. So the construction crew was scheduled to come out and do some repairs there on the road and kind of get that big bump smoothed out, and remove the permanent or the temporary patch and put the permanent patch in. And so we did put that notice out today that work's going to start on Monday. So expect road diet. Essentially, it's going to go to 2 lanes while that happens, and so there's going to be shifts and it'll be a little crazy, but it's going to be great when it's done.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's great to put on the record.
It's amazing how much you know about all this stuff. So there's an area right there on the Butterfield on the north side towards Westfield that's accumulating water. They're gonna make some adjustments to that? Because just a little bit of rain that we got this week, it's already a big puddle over there.
It's right on Westfield.
Yeah, so part of that is the storm drain improvements that are under design to help fix that, and then they've made some adjustments with the grading there to help prevent it from flooding the homes. We'd rather it flood certain areas versus the homes right there, so.
So you're on it, thank you.
We're addressing it, yes.
Appreciate it.
And then Donnie didn't want to talk about it, and Rich kind of halfway did it. But the trail around Veterans Park, finishing that around, can you go more into detail on that? And I'm glad that it's concrete because it's going to last a long time.
Sure, what would you like to know?
Well, we're extending the concrete from the skate park.
So where it ends now at the skate park, there it's kind of goes granite, and then it turns to the sidewalk, and then it's dirt, or you're on the sidewalk out by the street. So what's going to happen is going to meander through from the skate park out into front of Station 72, and then it'll actually go along the ditch there, back behind Station and wastewater and all those places back there, and circle around, keeping, it's a lovely view when you look at it, you know. And circle through the park, and then right when you get to the field services office, it'll put you back on the sidewalk, and you can choose to either continue on to the shopping center, or you can turn there on Grand, and it's going to provide a back connection through the park back there to connect back again. And there'll be some lighting installed with that, and including lighting for the skate park area.
Isn't that lovely?
Awesome.
And it's actually tying into our new playground that's going in right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
There's also one other special feature if the project comes under what we expect, a potential of a pedestrian bridge over the slough, right? It's out there. We'll see if it happens. A creek, yeah.
Hey, I don't know if we should put that on a record, Rich.
Hey, we're going to try. We'll see what happens.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear
Again,
that.
it's probably, it's not part of the bid package. So, yeah,
well.
we had to circle kind of around it because of the extreme cost.
Yeah,
So-
anytime you cross the waterway, it's.
Anytime you cross a waterway, pedestrians, those kind of things, it gets very costly. And it was, do we want benches and solar lighting so people can enjoy it better, or did we want to put that in? So, solar lights are also very expensive, so.
No,
But it's on
awesome.
the horizon for later.
Yes, yeah.
Thank
Here you go.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, City Manager, for that bridge comment. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on to police, if that's okay, council. There's
Yes.
just one project. It's been approved by council. It's a small portion of this $1 million project is the encryption, but really the major is the upgrades to the repeaters, the existing repeater, and adding an additional repeater on top of the hospital. That agreement to make that happen will be coming to council on May 5th. So that project's moving along. And Chief, I don't know if you want to add any additional information to that project?
I don't have anything in particular, City Manager, unless somebody has questions. I'm happy to address those. The project was definitely needed, required by law in part. Equipment was end of life. Fixes are, for instance, we don't have the ability very consistently to speak to units that are out by the casino.
As far as the repeaters.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We have units down in the river, fire down in the river, can't talk to them. There's big black areas. Part of this project addresses all that, so we'll have consistent and solid communications throughout the city and even beyond the casino. I don't know what else to add unless somebody has a question.
Thank you, sir.
I had a brief question. in our Monday briefing, I didn't get a chance, because hopefully we can meet in the next week, because I had a couple more questions. But one briefly was, we had supported the encryption switchover and communication, but there was not a dollar amount to it. Do we know what a dollar amount it roughly looks like?
For the.
To do the encryption, to switch over to the encryption?
Yes, sir. The encryption was the least expensive. Please don't hold me to it. I'm going to get a close guess. It was approximately $200,000
Okay.
of
So
this
just a fraction
entire
of it.
1 point, little over $1 million. The
Yeah.
encryption was the least expensive. The most expensive was the end-of-life equipment, the new repeater replacement, and then the microwave that's going on the hospital to project our signal out the rest of the way. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I heard even out by Burton School District and that kind of, it was kind of some dead zones too. Another question I had on that was on the encryption part, even though it's a small dollar amount. How did the communication function when we had the incident a couple weeks ago with communication with the Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol? Were there any communication? I don't know if this, what we're trying to fix here with these projects, was there any identified problems during that situation that this will help fix?
No, we are, all the law enforcement agencies, or most of the law enforcement agencies are still operating on the original system. There's a term we call flip the switch is going to happen soon. That's dependent on when the sheriff's office does that. This particular incident had no radio communication errors. It flowed seamlessly and went very well.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on, a tag team effort with Sarah and Battalion Chief Sani in the back row when we are talking about some really exciting fire projects. Sarah, you want to walk us through, and Chris, you want to come up and provide any additional context? I'm definitely excited about 72 and 71, for sure.
So Station 72 is underway on the remodel and addition, which will add housing for additional firefighter staff, as well as for the more modern equipment, which is just bigger than it used to be. So it's just where we're at on those, and it's going great. Contractor's doing a great job staying on time, and I won't commit to anything, but it will likely be done ahead of schedule, potentially at least a month, so that's awesome. And then Station 71, so we, as part of the EOC design, there'll be some included improvements at 71, including the roof, a drive-through bay for the equipment there, and a couple other items to help improve that for staff and for functionality as well. So that design, we just got the schematic on that we're going to be working on, looking through for approval, and then once that happens, that's about 25 to 30% done on plans, just so everyone knows. Once the schematic's approved, then they go through with the structural and the mechanical and then, how everything actually has to be built versus just the layout. So that's where we're at on that one.
What about the EOC portion of
That is the EOC with
71
71, so,
Fine.
yeah.
And then it's funded for next year of $8.7 million from the Cal OES grant.
Yes.
And then I've seen some social media about the upcoming delivery of our new piece of equipment. Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we do have the new ladder truck, so the tiller truck. They'll be here this fall, which will be a larger truck than we already have, so it'll get to the buildings we need to, and then 2 new engines maybe a month or 2 after that. So updating our fleet, our engines can only go for so long as frontline, and then we have to move them to backup, and so this really completes that circle and brings us up to getting some modern equipment.
Awesome. Exciting stuff out of the fire department. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Talking transportation now, I'll pass it on to Russell. You want to highlight some of the projects going on out at the airport this coming year? Part of our airport capital improvement plan.
Yeah, so we're doing some upgrades with the airfield electrical, taxiway lighting, finishing up a prior project with end of runway lighting. We're doing some work on secondary containment for the fuel island, raising some berm and some piping that is having to meet a new compliance regulation. In the past, anything above ground, as long as it was visible, single wall was allowed. They're no longer allowing that as of January 1st, so that's kind of where the berm comes in. However, there's single wall pipe that passes through concrete. You can see it below the concrete and above the concrete, but they can't see it where it goes through the concrete. So they're making us do something about that. So those will be hopefully completed shortly. We did a preliminary PCI on the runway condition, and we're going to develop an actual maintenance management program for the asphalt. That will be coming this year.
What, in that assessment, what's the rating of our runway right now?
64.
Is it like a fair as far as?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not great, it's not bad, but it's right in the middle, and,
Yeah, and we've done and worked with streets to do some work, crack sealing and stuff to try and prevent it getting worse as best we can. That's about it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's keep moving.
just carry on. Want to talk transit?
Sure. So we're going to be replacing some vans, probably 2 a year. I think we can squeeze 2 in. The bus maintenance facility. So that is with engineering, I think, at the moment. We're just about finalizing the permit, I think. She's
Yeah.
not paying attention again, distracted.
It'll be going out to bid soon, and hopefully
That's-
construction shortly after. There's a big component with the maintenance, and sorry, Director Isom,
Steal it.
to stomp on. So the maintenance facility is funded through SB 125, which is funding dedicated and managed by TCAG for public transportation. And the desire and the plan was and the encouragement from TCAG is they want shovel-ready projects. If we get it done, get it out to bid, the design done, get it out to bid, we will work with TCAG to find the balance or the unfunded that's projected in 2 years out. So that's why really we've been pushing hard to finish this design, to show TCAG that we're ready to go to construction, and then we'll work together to find the missing pieces in regards to the funding strategy.
Shovel-ready is important, right?
Name of the game. And then kind of tied to this project, the maintenance facility does not just support transit, it supports our entire fleet. Majority of that is our refuse department, and in the miscellaneous, we'll talk about the property acquisition that's required. But then we have some lobby upgrades happening at the transit center this coming fiscal year as well. Kind of rounds out the transit projects. A little bit lighter list. We invested this current fiscal year over $7 million in new vehicles. And by federal law, because we're using 80% is funded by the federal government. We're required to operate those buses for a minimum of 12 years. So this really sets us up for a long period of time when it comes to our fixed route. Is we have a fresh new fleet that we operate for hopefully 12 years, maybe even longer.
It's awesome.
All right.
Continue on.
This leads us to the final category, where there's kind of a mixture. Again, I highlighted some of it in the summary. We're doing the repair, or starting the repair on the City Hall roof, $700,000. We've dedicated $100,000 each year moving forward to ADA improvements. That's lowering counters, make sure they're at the right height, improvements in our bathrooms, et cetera. I just spoke about the property acquisition. This is tied to Santa Fe years ago, 5 years in the making, where Porterville Unified School District would be purchasing Santa Fe from the city of Porterville, and then in return, it was agreed upon that we would purchase Prospect Ed. How this relates to the new maintenance facility is the back half of that property, Prospect Ed property, which is vacant. That's where essentially half of the maintenance facility is going to be built. The front half, I think we need to have a conversation about facility planning that we've talked about. We need to develop a long-term plan with some of these buildings that we have, or do we sell them, surplus them, partner with another agency. Currently, the Prospect Ed, we are using it for storage for Parks and Leisure. We're going to be completing the navigation center expansion, the remaining funds of the ARPA funds, which need to be spent by the end of this calendar year. The continued investment in upgrading our accounting software, as well as the permitting software.
Just to highlight, I know it's getting late, but because there's a lot of people in the community that say we're not taking care of the homeless, we're not doing our fair share. You know, this was a $2 million investment into showers, restrooms, and a cafeteria area. Am I mistaken on that statement? There at the
Claudia's
navigation center.
been involved, and I know Councilman Beltran as well, but maybe let's have Claudia talk about this project.
Yeah, so it's, because of the funding is not as big as originally proposed, and so we had to limit it to it's a prep area, kitchen prep area, a cafeteria or indoor dining area. There's office space, showers, and bathrooms.
Okay, wonderful. So we're investing into the infrastructure and helping with people experiencing homelessness. So that's good. I just want to highlight that.
I had a brief question for next year. It says shade structure. A lot of people were asking me that go to the Link events. Where's that shade structure supposed to be utilized, or what part of the facility will it be at? Do we have an idea of where that will be? The blacktop area, or?
Yeah, I don't know about any addition to the actual building as far as the shade structure, unless that was added during the process. But the shade structure that's probably being referred to is the current one that's there, that we had initially discussed about making that, maybe covering some of the sides and making it, because we didn't know if we could have the indoor dining, but now that that's the option of indoor dining, the shade structure was the kind of the temporary where they brought in benches and stuff like that, but there's not a shade structure. There was originally a plan to add also housing, but because of the funding, that's more of a phase 2, so eventually if we identify additional funding, that could be added, but a standalone shade structure wasn't discussed.
Well, I would just ask, I won't be on the council for next year, but I would just ask if that could stay on there just for potential for next year, because in our area, it's mostly sunny. It's warm in this area. And every other Wednesday is when we have our Link events. This is where all the agencies come to serve those who are needing help. And they go on the blacktop, and it's just in the middle of the sun, and there's no shade, there's no trees. So I don't know what, some type of garden screening or sunshade.
So the intent was that when we had that cafeteria area, that the services would be held inside.
It's going to be too small. It's going to be way too small. No, we
Yeah,
did
because Link
talk about
has
that.
grown, so.
Yeah, we
I could
did
see
talk
that.
about like, when they're doing medical things or something, there's privacy to discuss certain things, but just, I wish something like that would stay on for minimal shade because it's pretty brutal for those people out there that are three
So I'll just interject really quick. It was added on because it was mentioned multiple times publicly that they wish there was more shade. So it's there and identified to allow us the opportunity to evaluate and see if there's a potential for the best placement and moving forward, because we also don't want to develop anything on that site that would prevent us from doing anything in the future if additional funding comes forward to help us improve the facilities even more. So it's there identified so that we can make those evaluations. We just haven't got to that point yet.
I'm just glad it was on there.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Continue on.
Yep, we have refuse transfer station improvements being planned, as well as additional street sweeper. Refuse is also responsible for street sweeping. Those have been planned for a while, and we'll continue planning for that and moving into construction down the road as we evaluate refuse services in general. I do want to take a moment and pause, kind of to the point of projects that are mentioned by council or in committees for staff to consideration. So, for example, there's some projects to continue to improve downtown that are currently unfunded. If it's the desire of the council to move those projects forward and dedicate some funding, I'll list it's been spoken about quite a bit about having a speaker music down Main Street essentially playing. That's the downtown PA system. We also have a downtown marquee, like digital signage as people are entering or driving down Main Street, they can see a display of upcoming events and other community or information. And then ADA parking improvements. We are internally working on ADA improvements. We're planning to dedicate 100,000 the next year and kind of work on each corner as we move along Main Street. And then there's also some miscellaneous projects that are currently unfunded that staff have identified, such as our IT building needs some improvements at some point. Digitization of records and records management is definitely a need at some point. We have a bunch of campuses sprinkled throughout the city. Most of them are not connected by fiber, and so we're having to utilize third party to improve communication. There's been some plans to connect, for example, the Courtyard to our blockhouse, our main infrastructure for the network through fiber, as well as Fire Station 72.
So, just to give my opinion on the matter, one, to talk about, I was saddened to see the welcome signs there at the bottom for North 65 and South 65 put out a year, but we talked about it. There's some issues with working with Caltrans and TCAG, and that's kind of why it's been projected out. Really looking forward to those being done. We've seen what Caltrans did with Farmersville, the welcome signs in Visalia, and we want to see that here in Porterville just to beautify the community. So it is on deck. It's something coming forward. As far as funding the marquee sign, some of those ADA improvements on Main Street, and then the PA system, with the increase that we had in the parking lot, I think that this may be wise to put off till next year. And just talking about projects, something that's I've learned here in as a councilman, and the way the CDBG grants work, it's low-income communities, right? And so this is why you've seen the improvements all on the east side of town. And so something I want to push forward on and lobby my colleagues here is, let's bring a water feature to the middle of town, to Veterans Park. And my thought is, if we're able to push for like a splash park at Veterans Park, it gives us something centralized on the west side of town where families can go and get wet, play on the playgrounds. And in my opinion, it really completes that section of Veterans Park there with what we're doing with the George Washington Monument, the three-story tower battleship theme playground, or what I like calling the USS Porterville. But if we had a splash park next to that, it really ties in Veterans Park. And so that's something I would like to lobby for coming up on the capital improvement project list. Vice Mayor, you're about to say something, so.
Oh, I would just say, I was really disappointed when we were really sharpening the pencil and going through this stuff, because that original fix for the JCPenney parking lot went from, doubled in price.
Yeah.
And part of it was that requirement to do the charging stations, and part of it was there were some additional requirements that came up. And that's kind of pushing us in a direction where, you know, that money needs to be spent. That area of downtown needs to be fixed. And I know in phase 3 of that, if we play our cards right, we can get some of those ADAs. But these other items, I know that these are things that the public wants, but I don't know if we're going to be able to afford them this year. I think we might need to push them into next year as well.
Thank you for
Just
saying
based
that.
on the finances. It's just-
Yeah, that was my opinion on it. Councilman Beltran, you have something to?
Yeah, no, I would be in support, depending on how the funding mechanisms go and there's any savings on projects. And I think last year, one of our projects came in under cost, and we were able to save, I don't know, it was a couple $100,000 or something.
Yeah, so like the battleship themed playground, we had allocated $600,000. I think it costs $267 or somewhere in there. So we're roughly $300,000.
Different items like that. I don't like that as general fund, but yeah, to your point, I wouldn't mind if there was a way to get an analysis of what a splash pad would cost. I think is one being done at the community center?
Yes.
So we get an idea of how big that is and what that one costs. We can kind of get an idea of a ballpark figure,
Well, I
because there's
bet-
nothing on the west
I bet
side.
Ms. Weaver or Deputy City Manager could provide us with a round number.
Yeah, it's listed as 150,000, that's correct.
Oh, so a splash pad would cost about $150,000.
Yeah.
So that's something we'd be looking at.
Okay. The only other one I had, a little pet project I've been asking for a couple of years, was the safety beacons along the trails. I get the prices. It seems like they've doubled from when I first was asking about them. But I would love to do a trial, like maybe 2 trials, depending on funding. I'm not asking to be a priority, but see how things go with the trails, of maybe 2 along the Tule River Parkway, because those are most kind of isolated areas.
I believe those are listed under miscellaneous, right, Donnie?
Well, no, they're in the parks, but they're pushed out to next year. But not that all of them need to be put out, because I think there's certain ones that are more in the public view and they're not isolated, versus I think Tule River Parkway, there's not a lot of residential areas. There's no roads that are adjacent to it. And so I would love more like of a pilot program to put 1 or 2 in the more isolated areas, just to see how those might function. I'm not saying it's a priority, but just to get another idea of
What are those costs a piece?
It says 16 a piece, but I thought they were more like 7, but
We have a very recent bid from Butterfield. They were an ad alternate, and because of the cost, it didn't get added on. So that's a very recent price that we have on those. So that's why we're able to put those prices in. I put a little bit of an escalator just because of the time on it.
It's kind of a nice to have as an add-on, but do we
it's not a
really need
need.
it?
Yeah, it's not a need.
Everybody's got a phone,
if you,
right?
yeah, well, not everyone, but if you visited communities that do have them in some areas that, you know, are harder to see and you kind of feel secluded when you're in them, there is a level of security there that it provides, especially as a woman in the community, that encourages you to use those things more. So I definitely see the benefit of them if the funding is available for us to try them out, and we would, you know, potentially try them in an area such as Councilman Beltran was talking about, where the visibility is more questionable than other places. And then I'll share too, on the splash pads, there's a lot that goes into them. There's like the one at the community center, they had to dig down about 18 feet and they have to build in all these things to help capture the water and filter the water so it can go off and be reused in our landscaping and things. So there's a lot of infrastructure that goes into those wonderful splash
We
pads.
can't
So that's,
just
We have
charge
shovels.
groundwater
we
on the
really
other
can't.
side.
There's rules about that with MS4, so
Slip and slide, is that what
they're
you think?
they're great, but yeah, that pricing is pretty dead on there. So Mr. Moore definitely did his
So
his
it's
diligence.
around 150 grand for a splash pad?
Yes.
Okay.
We got some baking to do for fundraiser.
Yeah.
No, I think that would be very popular because to the mayor's point, there's not a lot of stuff on the west side of town, especially when it has to do with water features.
Yeah, and the CDBG grants is focusing on low-income communities. This really finishes the north side of Veterans Park. We got work to do on the south side as well, but that's maybe for a time when I'm not here. Okay, so is there, I'm missing the call boxes. I don't know what you call them exactly. Are they here?
Yeah, we're in the parks, way up page, I had it earlier. They're at the bottom of parks. Page 21, very bottom, they're called trail safety. And I don't know if there's a minimum requirement of what a city might have, because there's some with cameras, some without cameras, some with sirens, and all kinds of, I have a couple of emails out to different college campuses that have variations of
Safety
them
call boxes.
to see what their costs were, because I don't know which one we're looking at, so, because that's a high sticker price, so.
It is. I mean, it'd be cool if it was, wasn't that expensive maybe, but we have the drone program coming in.
That's a good point.
If there's a way that, we can integrate some sort of safety, I think we should explore it. But this seems kind of pricey.
Yeah, I wouldn't push for this price. I'm going to see if there's some more prices out, and again, maybe just, I don't really see one on the Butterfield. It's a very exposed area, a lot of
Yeah.
people. Veterans is very high exposure. Santa Fe is somewhat, it was the Tule River Parkway that was my main one, that a little concerning.
Well, with the bridges and everything down there, it's certainly an opportunity to discuss safety. With the comments here from Sarah, I think she's right. We got to be careful. We got a lot of area to cover down there and a lot of bridges.
Yeah,
But
it's not a need, it's a
Well,
want.
and
so.
I think it's something that we could definitely look at, but maybe we look at it next year.
It's something to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Especially the Tule River Parkway, that one somewhat makes sense, so. But we push it out a year because if we fund the splash pad, that's 150, and then we could look at it from there. Okay, so we've gone through, do you have enough direction on where we want to go, the council?
Absolutely. We understand the direction we need to go.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if you want to allow 10, 15 minutes if the public has any input on the $109 million in projects.
Look at, yeah, he's just looking at me like, yeah, please open it up.
Give it to him, open it up.
It's good to get community input.
Yes, so I guess this is a time for oral communication. If you have any comments, you have 3 minutes for that.
Make it 2 minutes today.
No.
You know how beat up I got over that?
Okay,
Oh, don't wanna
Marie
get
Texera, I beat Taha to the mic.
Is the mic on, ma'am? Oh, okay.
Sarah?
Oh, yes, just up at the top of my head, the marquee and the PA system for downtown along Main Street. I would like to know more about the particular use case for them, how you imagine people walking by them, or how often and what kind of music there would be. And for the marquees, I believe you mentioned people would be driving by on Main Street and then, oh, look, a marquee, crash. I would be concerned about that. So I'd like to know exactly how you see them being used. And I think it's great. I think I'd love to have more people participating downtown. I live near downtown myself, and mostly I use the my social media downtown is the windows in Taha's Chamber of Commerce to go see all the things that are posted up. I get a lot there, so it'd be really nice to have another way to do it. I would just be concerned about safety with the marquee and overwhelming music with the PA system, but I'm sure something will come good of it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Corey Wells. It was a great discussion tonight. I'd like to, there are some comments that the vice mayor made, and I really appreciated talking about the bigger picture. And I think there's a really well-stated train of thoughts there. It's kind of interesting to see visually, the slideshows were great. They were really well put together. Something that was really interesting, it was to see all the stimulus money that was had during COVID. And so you can see really the massive increase in surpluses that were available from the federal pushing grant money down. And so that really interesting to see how all that kind of is working together there. On the one item that I am super interested in looking forward to is the SO2 master plan. I participated in those community workshops when those were happening a few years ago, and if my outcome takeaway from that was that while there was community engagement on that, it appeared to me like the state had more of a strong arm in the process. And to explain what I mean was there had to be the zoning. We saw the map up on the screen earlier, and it was kind of interesting to see a school put along an arterial main road like that, when that is going to really, if and you leave California, you can see really the really efficient road work in the planning that's being done that doesn't have to follow these newer zoning laws that we've had developed over the past few decades. And so you can just see the stark difference from that plan, and understand that there needed to be a plan put in place. Even because of the way that the laws are written, there has to be a school planned for that area. But I really think that that needs to be kept heavily in mind, that we don't need a school along the 190 there. I appreciate the forward thinking, because that's a huge opportunity for growth in Porterville and more economic opportunities for generations in the families that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Taha Saleh, address on file. I just want to say thank you for this amazing evening. I learned a lot. The community's going to learn a lot. The transparency is open. What a great pivot. It takes courage to, see something and not be like the whole sunken cost, and just move to the Newcomb Bridge. That's where we need to go, so I'm excited to see that work through. I didn't know how important Sarah Weaver was. Man, she was up here all night. That's awesome. And last week at the event, I spoke to Mr. Isom, and I mentioned like a small project on, I believe it was Prospect and Henderson. When we make that right turn, you're going to go west, and you make that right turn off from Henderson to Prospect. An opportunity maybe for a right arrow, because those cars that are coming off of Prospect making a left on the Henderson, that signal's only going a left-hand turn and straight. So a lot of times there's traffic that backs up right there, and if we just put a little arrow, it can just kind of speed that right-hand turn right there on the corner where the habit is. Lastly, a lot of capital projects. Kind of an idea around the sunken cost. I know that there's been a lot of I don't know what's been put as far as the library. I know we're planning to put the library across from the Justice Center there, but I was just curious, because there's a big focus from this council about revitalizing downtown. Is it worth looking at a lot, near downtown for the library? Maybe doing that, because that's going to drive a lot of people, and that could be an opportunity to revitalize and bring more people there. So along the lines of the forward thinking that you guys are displaying, and not just being stuck in plans, but open to look at things. I would hope you maybe consider that. So thank you very much. It was a great meeting. Excited to see what comes forward. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Saleh. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else. You're going to wait. It's going to be quick. All right.
Okay, my name is Matthew Doiser. I live at 302 West Grand Avenue. When we had the last city council meeting, the American Lung Association State of the Year report came out at 9 o'clock. This year's findings, Vice was second in ozone, fifth in 2.5 particulate matter, and fifth in national average for pollutants. So whatever we decide on for certain things, for traffic patterns and everything else, kind of keep that in the background, because that's going to affect how we're going to deal with asthma and everything else. Thank you much.
Okay. Now, you've already had a comment, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so we'll close the oral communication and bring it back to council comments. Just to address some of the comments that were made, it's interesting you talk about the air pollution and things that go on. The state used to actually, and Fed, used to fund putting in sidewalk, curb, and gutter throughout cities. And with that, you have less debris being knocked up in the air because you have that. But because the state has changed its policy and the direction, we no longer get funding for that. They force us into putting bike paths in and pedestrian walk paths, which doesn't help with that air pollution, right? And then, so another, just to Taha, you or Mr. Saleh, you talked about the library and where it's at. We've already purchased the land. We've already done the environmental. It's in design phase. We're about $1 million into the design. So what I'm saying is heavily committed. And I don't think it'd be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars to change course on this one. But thank you for the support of the pivot, because this is a big move, and to have players like you supporting that move means a lot. Mr. Wells, there are things that we cannot control, and one of those things is the schools. They buy land in the worst locations because it's cheap, and then they build there, and then it impacts the city. So as much as I want to control some of these zoning things, I think there's going to be a lot of change over the next 20 years on the SO2 as development goes in, and we're going to have to change zoning and work around, but these schools will go forward and build where we don't want them. I'm predicting the future here. So with that, I'll pass it off. Vice Mayor, do you have any comments?
Well, I'd be surprised if we built the school anywhere where we have good traffic. That would be refreshing. I remember I got involved in politics when we put Granite Hills High School in because of the traffic. And that's a whole nother story, 30 years ago. But yeah, we always do that with the schools. Hopefully some things will work in our favor, but it's a valid concern. We don't want to put a school next to a highway, but it is a long ways out, so we'll see if we can steer it. And as far as the marquees, the suggestions that were made, there were some good suggestions on the marquee, would be to put it down near the statue of the farmer, just so people, when they're driving around, they would be able to see what's going on downtown. But it's still not fleshed out real clearly, so I think having it on next year's agenda would probably be good, so we can look at that a little closer. It's a good idea. I think it promotes information, but this year I'd like to see us, Mr. City Manager, just focus internally on how we can just pull that information in and push it out every week and improve it even without a marquee. And then we'll use a marquee down the road, I think, for some good things. But as far as music, the vision is similar, seasonal. It goes along with the parade, or it goes along with an event, or it goes along with the season. Just simple, nothing complicated there. But there's always, whenever you have a collective music or something, there's always somebody that's not happy. So that'll be problematic. But as far as my takeaway tonight is bridges to the future and shovel-ready projects.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman Rivas.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Chief, for your communication with, communication is key. So I'm all for it for that, and I will do whatever I can to make sure that comes to fruition. The Finance Department, I want to say thank you for your reporting. Fernando, you also. Robert, Ms. Weaver, Parks and Leisure, Mr. Ison, that lady behind you, I know she works for the city. Trish, thank you very much. I know who you are now. Mr. Bingham, everybody, Donnie, man, it just, so many people. I just want to say thank you very much, the lawyer, Mr. Tree, council members. I want to say thank you for the good report. The future is Newcomb, and that's where I'm going to focus on. And you call it SOTU?
The SOTU development.
Well, so too am I. So that, we're going to go that way. So with that, I just want to say thank you for everything. I know it's late. I want to go home, and I look forward to the future of Porterville, and I'm just glad that we had this transparency, because it's always been our idea of creating this transparency from the beginning when I started this council. So, and also, I don't want to forget about Union. I want to talk to and hopefully get Union Street on the map, because that's what I spoke for. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Councilman Green?
Well, good grief. You guys, everything that I wanted to say, you guys have already said. So, but I do want to thank everybody here tonight. This budget, what they put together, this just doesn't happen over a day or two. This is a lot of work. I've built budgets before, been in ag, somewhat different, but from scratch, and it's a lot of work, a lot of research. So I appreciate everybody's hard work and probably discipline, because I'm not that disciplined, but man, you guys have to really be disciplined and focused to put something like this together. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Councilman Beltran?
Yeah, I'll just echo the same to the directors and your supporting staff. Just thank you. I know this is a year-long. We just got done with this one. I'm sure you guys will start on next year's already. But thank you for the commitment to all these projects. As we've seen, some of these get kicked down the road, and some, as we spoke to, being shovel-ready as soon as possible. Just thank you for your staff and your guys' dedication. I know it's not a 9-to-5 job, especially being the directors. So I really appreciate all the sacrifices you guys make being here late on a Tuesday and throughout the week and months and years. So thank you. And as we look back at this tenure, and thank you, City Manager Tree, for that 10-year look back, the graphics really help a lot of people. And, you know, some people tune in for drama and dramatics and different statements. I hope this is our most watched video because of all the information it has behind the scenes, the 10-year look back of the investment that past councils, past management, past directors, and current, and all those areas are for the next 10 years. And these are the seeds for all of that. And so just thank you, everybody, for all your time and effort in this.
Thank you, Councilman Beltran, and no doubt there's a new tone set, right? The bar is a little higher, so great job to staff in the room. City Manager, go ahead and take us home.
Just want to highlight our next, we have a regular scheduled city council meeting next Tuesday, and then we have a special city council meeting on May 12th, which we will present to the community and the council our preliminary budget. So thank you all for the community for being involved in your attendance tonight. We encourage you to continue to attend. This is where we're building the final stages of the budget.
Okay.